Sit back and get ready to have the most fun you ever had with an electronic device.
Well, I got the chili going. We're doing wings later, and there might be a sandwich involved at some point. Big loaf of Italian bread.
Here's an interesting.
We got some gabagool downstairs too.
We got a little gabagool and some manicool. Pasolini, fasolona, a little affidavit, some prosciutto.
All right, everybody, welcome out to the Locker Room. It is Wednesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, folks. Slancha, Jersey Johnny coming at you. And with me, as always, are none other than Mr. RadioPete, Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. Say hello, guys.
Hello, guys.
Hey, now.
Boy, we butcher words in many languages.
We have butchered words in many languages.
Mm-hmm.
Slancha's right.
I guess so.
Sure.
I think it's
what does it mean?
I didn't say slanty.
Slanty.
So,
Happy Slanty, you leprechauns.
happy slanty, you leprechaunis. Slancha, everybody, and happy birthday to Mr. Lug Nutz.
Yay.
29 again.
29
I was going
again.
to I was going to get the boys to serenade you with a little piano trombone rendition of Happy Birthday, but that would have taken effort.
Yes.
But that would have taken a little effort. So.
And I'm
Do they do it in Tom Waits style?
Absolutely.
I have to. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
I have to admit,
Happy birthday, swordfish trombone.
my will is not as strong as two teenage boys. They're tougher than I am.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. Yeah.
But happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
But you
Happy
have somebody
birthday.
to clean the gutters.
This is
So
true.
Yeah,
There you go.
it's debatable.
it's called a wife.
Well, already then. On that note, how's your birthday been so far, Mr. Lug Nutz?
Just
Stellar?
stellar leading up to this. So, can't complain. I've been working all day.
So there you go. And it looks like you still have sun out there, since it is only 5:53 out there. So
It is. I do have sun. My this time of year, I'm getting sun creeping through the west window, and it's nice. It's nice that it's still light out at 6 o'clock now.
there you go. It's a beautiful thing.
Something about artificially playing with the clock.
The clock
seems to make the sun come up different times.
It's
Yeah, it was
artificial. I mean, we do it. The clocks don't artificially change. We change them manually ourselves. But well, some of them change automatically. Though.
I meant Mother Nature's clock.
I know what you meant.
Yeah.
I know what you meant.
No, I was just getting used to actually starting work and it not being dark
And now it's
for
dark.
about a week and a half, and then now it's dark again, and I have to
You'll have that
walk
for
around with the
another
big
month.
flashlight for the first hour of work. It stinks.
Sure.
Well, maybe you could pick a different restroom on the turnpike.
Well,
Yeah, but you're a creature of habit. I mean,
Creature of that.
Yeah.
So are they.
right?
yeah, that's what I was going to
So are
say.
so are your clients.
I'd be happy to pick another place, but I don't think they would.
Yeah.
This is true.
And the day shift is, the daylight shift is never as lucrative as the night shift.
This is
It's
very
true.
true as well. Yeah.
True.
It's also something to think about.
But I'm, home for dinner, so it makes it all worthwhile.
I mean, yeah. And full benefits.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. Can't beat that. In any event.
All right, there we go. Off the rails right at the
Off
beginning
rails
of the
right at
show
the beginning
again.
of the show. That's it.
We are
Absolutely.
consistent.
We're nothing but if not consistent.
We'll see you next week, folks.
All right. Listen, I have a message going out to the Garden. I want to send it out before we get going.
Okay.
We always start off with basketball anyway, but lately, this is for Mr. Dolan and any of the security guards. Okay, this is Patrick Ewing. Okay, he's a star among stars from the Garden. Okay, he played for the Knicks. The Knicks is a team that plays where you work, and if it's Dolan that's listening, who you own. Okay, Patrick Ewing. This is him now. Okay, so just in case there was any confusion, just wanted to make sure you all knew that. So I hope that helps. I hope that
now,
helps.
was he 100% serious about that, or I kind of got the feeling that Ewing was. He was not happy, but he wasn't maybe necessarily. I thought he was playing a little bit, but he was definitely. I'm sure it was frustrating. Or was he just really? He was
pissed because it happened on numerous
occasions,
and he just
all he's got to do is point up to the rafters and go, "Yeah, that's my fucking ID right up there.
My ID's right there.
That's hanging right up there." Dick.
Yeah, probably some security guard wearing a Derrick Rose jersey. Probably a Bulls Derrick Rose jersey.
A Bulls Derrick Rose jersey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
MSG
got rid of Al Troutwig this week too, so it's
fine. He sucked.
You think?
I never had much love for Al Troutwig.
All right. Well, sorry, Al. I was trying to give you some props, but RadioPete thinks you suck.
I will tell you this: he did a good job. He did a good job on the Hawaii Ironman. They do a film about the Ironman triathlon, and he narrates that, and he's good at that. But he doesn't suck. I guess I never found anything special about him.
Okay,
he was Trowig's fine. I mean, what was the reason they got rid of him?
I don't know. They did not renew his contract.
They did not renew his contract. So who's coming in to take his place?
Who knows?
Dolan's going to do it himself. Patrick Ewing. There you go. Dolan's going to do it himself.
Yeah, Jeremy Lin's going to come in and announce the Rangers games.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And speaking of LeBron James, you see what he bought yesterday?
Part of the Patriots or somebody?
Red Sox.
Red Sox. There you go. I knew it was Boston.
He invested in the Fenway Sports Group as a partner, and so that means he's now a part owner of the Red Sox. So he was a Yankees fan, apparently, originally. Became an Indians fan, obviously. And now he's owning the Sox. So,
well, he did wear a Yankees hat at a game in Cleveland, right, against the Indians.
I believe so, yes.
But here's the thing about this, because I thought about this. Not that I really care, but I don't think he has the availability to buy a piece of the Yankees, right? So if he really is a Yankee fan, I don't think there's any of them for any part of that franchise for sale.
There's no part of
that. There's no part owners with the Yankees.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess he wanted to own part of a baseball team, and he figured, well, I guess Boston is as good as any other, but
it's a good investment.
He doesn't want a piece of the Indians, apparently, which
is kind of interesting in that the Indians have probably been the best Cleveland team over the last. That's not saying a lot.
It's not saying a lot, but it's saying something. So
I mean, let's face it, the Cavs did win a championship. We all know about that, and the Indians have gotten close, but
gotten close a few times in the last 30 years.
But maybe that wasn't available either. I don't know. I think it's just he probably has discussions with his accountants like, hey, it might be a good idea this year with interest rates so low to buy a piece of the Red Sox as a write-off or something. I don't know. Who knows?
Somebody else said he owns part of a soccer team.
I'm sure he does. Yeah.
I forget the name, but it was one of the names that the average person who's even not a soccer fan might recognize. Maybe
I will tell you this:
City or something like that.
It's been a slow sports news week.
It's definitely been a slow
because we're talking about LeBron James.
Well, let me, if I may, bring up something, and I think I texted about this.
Before you do, I just want to throw this up there. We got a couple of comments just for Harry. Hey, Harry, happy birthday from the Samurai, from the beer podcast.
Thank you.
And he also said happy St. Paddy's Day to all of us and all of our viewers. Both of them.
Oh, very nice.
There you go.
There's two?
Yeah, apparently, he just wanted to make sure it was just two that he was saying happy St. Patrick's Day to, I think.
Well, it's him and his dog, or
him and his dog,
viewers, right?
Right.
All right.
Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you and all of us, is what he was basically saying.
That's pretty much what he was saying.
Well, happy St. Patrick's Day, Sam.
There you go. All right. So you were saying, I'm sorry I cut you off.
No, it's okay. I think I texted last week about this because I believe it happened on Thursday.
Okay.
I gotta look at my calendar. Yeah, Thursday, because Thursday was the 11th of March, which in 2020, according to some guys on ESPN Radio and the New York show, the Michael Kay show, was the day the world changed.
Oh, yes.
And I found it really offensive. And Don LaGreca was saying that it was a kind of a "where were you" kind of a day, because it was. He compared it to, it was like he was saying for us, us sports guys, it was our "where were you" when Kennedy was shot, and "where were you," on 9/11 kind of a day. And I just found that to be. Yeah, we're here.
We're here.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear us? We got you. There you go.
I can't hear a thing.
You flashed in and out for a second.
You flashed in and out.
You saw that, right? He can't hear what we're saying.
For a second, yeah. He can't hear a thing. Here, I'll message you. Keep talking.
So, I don't know. I just found it kind of offensive. Now, look, in all fairness, the 11th was the day when I believe the WHO declared the coronavirus officially a pandemic. And it was also the day that the NBA said, we're going to not play any games. So I do remember at that time thinking, oh, wow, this is kind of a big deal. There's a sports league that's actually shutting down.
Yeah. But
in retrospect, it wasn't. I mean, how long was the league out? Just a few months.
Yeah, I mean, they were out for a few months. Everything got shut down.
Everything was shut down.
Yeah, so football wasn't happening anyway, and nothing really ever affected football other than training camp starting late and nobody in the stands. Obviously, that affected everybody. But yeah, I mean, they all got back up and running, and they did their bubbles and the whole nine.
Yeah, it just, I don't know. I just kind of to compare it to the president of the country getting assassinated.
Yeah.
And, the World Trade Center's coming down and everything that went along with 9/11. I just kind of felt it was a little bit over the top. And ultimately, and this might sound odd, because we're doing a sports podcast, but it was fucking sports. You know what I mean? I mean, as much as it would suck, the world could survive if sports just stopped. If there were no NBA,
it absolutely did suck.
It would,
but and there were a lot of things to feel bad about too. Like the last year's tournament didn't happen, so any college seniors, they didn't get to play in the NCAA tournament, and there were things that were sucky about it. But
there was a lot of crappy stuff, but not 9/11 or
not 9/11 or Kennedy getting shot. No.
So
yeah.
Unfortunately,
so Don LaGreca said that.
Yeah, it just kind of like it was a "where were you" moment for us, kind of sports guys. And I went, come on, man, that's a little. But they, they're prone to hyperbole, and I don't know that. There's sometimes that show is brilliant. I listen to it a couple times a week. There's sometimes that show is brilliant, and there are other times when they seem to be all about hype. Right. And we're going to say stuff because we want clicks.
Right. And we're the total opposite of that, because we do nothing about hype. Nothing whatsoever.
No, well, they're the kind of this is this is a team you'll be happy if they're kind of around 500, whatever sport they're talking about, and then they win 3 games in a row and they go, hey, they could get right into the playoffs. Everything it's one extreme or the other. So, but they are very entertaining. They are very funny sometimes. So I don't know. I just wanted to vent about that. I've been waiting a whole week to get it off my chest.
Get a whole week to get it off your chest. Well, you know what? I agreed with you when you did shout it out last week, when you sent it last week. And I'm agreeing with you now.
Oh, I should have tweeted.
You could have tweeted it.
I got to start using my Twitter more.
You should use your Twitter more, yes.
Yeah, I think I've posted like 5 tweets in, I don't know, whatever, 3-4 months since I've re-signed on.
Since you've re-signed on.
When I first signed on was like 8 years ago, and I posted one thing, and then I never used it again.
That's funny.
And then when I went to, for some reason, I had to sign on to connect with some people. Oh, part of the computer coding thing, and so I went to go back on, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we got your account right here." Yeah, but I guess I should be using it more. I just don't have any use for it.
Oh yeah. Well, I have to admit I do tweet myself for and for the podcast, obviously.
Yeah.
But it is worth it, and you can definitely get some get some people
Harry's
interacting
rebooting
with it. Harry is rebooting. I was just gonna.
Yeah, I just got a text.
I just
He
got
said,
the text
"Keep
too. I'm like,
to reboot. We should. You know what? When he comes back on, let's just do this.
we're waiting. No, we
As
waited
if
the
we've
whole
been
time.
sitting here silent the entire time.
Or just go like give him one of these.
Or we could just
like we're frozen at that point.
Or we could just keep talking. And then he'll come on and no, let's not do that to him.
Let's not do any of that because he'll see, shit, it's not working, and he'll reboot
again. He'll reboot again. So I wanted to talk about that. I just wanted to bring that up.
His exact tweet was, I'm not going to say his exact tweet because we might have people that
I don't know what he has against Microsoft. I have to say, I often tell people,
I don't know what's why he's using no Microsoft.
I don't know. I often tell people that I am an unlucky person and that anything bad that can, what is it? The
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law, yeah. Where there's also a book called The Peter Principle, which is sort of along the same lines.
Well, you wrote it, right?
I wish, but I seem to have extremely good luck with Windows and Microsoft products in general. I never, knock wood, have any problems with that sort of thing. I run all my stuff, and but everybody else I know, this piece of crap. I know the creative types like the Apple stuff. Supposedly it's better, and that's fine. Maybe it is. My son uses an Apple, but
I use it. I'm using Apple right now. There's an Apple sitting. This is where I'm communicating to you via the Apple, and my laptop over here, though, however, is a PC. It's a Microsoft.
I'm using like a 5-year-old Dell laptop. Not that it's not really taxing it. It's got a microphone and a camera attached to it, but
it's all good.
I'll tell you what, though. Here's my secret.
What's your secret?
As far as anything internet connected.
We are going to rivet people with our delay of the sports podcast, waiting for Harry to get back to talk about this. We could talk hockey because no. I want to know I'm riveted. I want to know what your secret is.
Here's the thing, folks. If you've got the dual band router, right? You got the 5 the 5 gig, and you got the 2.4. Well, everybody in my house now. I got one desktop that's hardwired, and I use a NVIDIA Shield to stream television. That's hardwired. Okay. We got another desktop. We got a second Shield. Everybody's got their phones. Probably 2 or 3 other laptops.
Sure.
All that's on the 5.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I'm on the 2.4.
You're on the 2.4.
My phone, this computer I'm using, and my tablet. Because nothing else is on it.
That makes sense.
I get all
everybody goes to the 5G, and you got all the bandwidth.
Everybody goes to the 5G. I get all of the bandwidth reserved for the 2.4, and it's not that much slower.
No,
No,
it's depending on what you're doing, you can't even notice any.
No, I mean, there's nothing. Look, I'm not uploading a lot of video or stuff, so that's really not an issue. But when everybody else is using all the 5G and sharing all that, switch to the 2.4. You have that band all to yourself.
I have to admit, everything here, TVs, computers, laptops, iPads, iPhones, blah 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 blah, is all on the 5G. Nothing is on the 2.4. There's literally nothing on it. I'm sorry, I take that back. The printer over there is on the 2.4. That's the only thing that's on the 2.4.
Yeah, you know what? Probably that's. Yeah, we had the printers in my son's room next door. That's probably also on the 2.4.
2.4.
Yeah.
But that's a smart idea. That's a smart idea. I'll have to remember that if there's ever lagging on the 5G.
I mean, we don't. I don't think anyone has much of a problem because a couple of years ago, probably 5 years ago, I think we had like 50 meg service.
Right.
And then one day the cable company was like, "Hey, how'd you like 100 meg service for $5 extra a month?" Right. And I thought, that sounds like a pretty good deal, double my speed.
Sure.
And then like 2 years later, they did the same thing. And they're like, "Hey, how'd you like 200 meg service for $5 extra?" So I was like, "Okay."
Okay.
So I think there's plenty of bandwidth. Although here's the funny part about that. Not funny now. When they the Cablevision, of course, was you're probably familiar with Cablevision, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Cablevision in Jersey. So they were bought by Altis.
Altis,
Excuse me.
Altis, yeah. Remember.
Altis. So, excusez-moi. Je peux demander pour nos baccatesia Altis.
Altis.
Anyway,
yes.
They started charging. Hey, they started charging me $10 a month for a modem.
Can you hear us?
So I said, "Screw that." He can't hear us anyway.
I can hear you.
We
can you hear me?
Yeah. Are you guys done?
Good stuff. Yeah, we talked. We did the Knicks talk.
We're done. We're all the way through to hockey. We're almost finished now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We actually did the technology talk since you were having technical.
I revealed my Wi-Fi secrets and a few other
Wi-Fi secrets and a couple of other things. So yeah. So
I thought you would have gotten through Pete's New York City radio host, whatever.
Well, we did finish that up.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's all.
Because I don't understand what that was all about, but I'll find out off the air.
All right. So
well, you can listen to the podcast.
I'll listen to the podcast.
Listen to the podcast.
Where can I find it?
You can find it on.
I think there's
what's it called?
It's called
on the inner tubes.
The beer. The beer
web tubes.
closet.
That's what it is.
That's right.
There you go. All right. Well, speaking about the Knicks, why don't we jump back into basketball here? Yeah, you know what? I mean, they lost the last two games. They lost on Monday to the Nets, and they lost last night to the Sixers. But they were in both games. And, Peyton's out. Rose has been out. So, it came down to like last night, for instance, they were outscored by 12 in the fourth. They were leading into the fourth.
They were by 9.
Most of the game, they lost by 3, 99-96. I just think they ran out of gas, with Peyton and Rose and everybody being out, not
and what's his name?
2 minutes and
Marshall.
Right.
Leonard Marshall.
Leonard Marshall was out.
Yeah, Leonard Marshall was out.
Mitchell Robinson. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Mitchell, not Marshall.
Robinson.
Mitchell Robinson. Yeah, Robinson with Robinson and Rose being out.
Yeah, and that. So I just think they ran out
even
of gas.
With those,
because they were not hitting. They were hitting shots all night, both games, and then at the end of the game, they weren't hitting anything. It just wasn't going in. So thoughts?
Yeah. When you get tired, you don't get good lift in your legs, and it affects your jump shot.
I mean, they don't have that elite player who's going to put the game on his back and hit shots in the fourth quarter. There's a lot of teams that have that problem. Mm-hmm. There's a few players out there that they could go get, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. And I think that they probably shouldn't beat the Sixers even without Embiid. They gave the Nets a good game, and
did we really?
Those are all good signs. The Knicks are a team who, at least this year so far, have beaten the teams that they should beat, and have consistently lost to the teams that they're go in as underdogs, and that's why their record is the way it is.
If you look at the second half schedule they have, it's about 50-50 teams with records over 500 and teams that are under 500. So they should kind of be right around there. And I mean, really,
they're going to be right around 500, and I'm not sure that that's going to get them the 8th seed. It might in the East.
It could.
But that's where I see them landing. Look, there's a lot of good things to say about the Knicks.
But there's a play-in situation with the NBA this year, right? I think if you're in the top 10, so they could definitely get in the play-in.
Right,
but I mean
they were in the fifth seed or the fourth seed at the All-Star.
At one point, they were at the fourth.
Now they're.
But coming out of the break, did you really expect anything? Realistically, at 2-2 at best within the first 4 games, right?
They're in the 8th seed.
Maybe when Embiid went down, you went, oh well, they might get that Philly, but kind of 1-3 was sort of what I think was realistic coming, going against the Bucks and the Nets and the Sixers even before,
Let me
they're right there.
They are right there. Let me ask you this: did you see the Nets game on? Did you watch the Nets game on Monday night?
I did not. I did not watch all of it. No, I
did you
saw
see the end of it?
Highlights. I saw the end. It was not a walk.
It was not. He did not travel. It was nothing.
I mean, we're going to start calling traveling now in the NBA.
That was horseshit. That was complete.
I mean,
if they're going to call traveling, they have to
I would have been
calling carries.
And then every Euro step is illegal.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
the Knicks are in the 8th seed, and they're a half game out of the 9th seed.
Right.
So I mean, this is what I thought would happen. I mean, Atlanta's has won 6 in a row now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Toronto and the Pacers will probably be there, and I think the Knicks and Bulls are going to have a tough time getting in. And you know, the Wizards have kind of come back down to earth a little bit. It's tough. I mean, look, the Sixers. Doc Rivers has to be considered as coach of the year. The Sixers are up right now, by 15, 14 points against the Bucks. At halftime, they held Milwaukee to 31 points at halftime. So, you know, we talk about Thibodeau and the Knicks' defensive mindedness. Doc Rivers has done a hell of a job with the 76ers team.
Yeah.
And if they can tread water and win games like this against Milwaukee, while Embiid is out, I think that 76ers Nets playoff series could be interesting.
It definitely could be interesting.
I agree. I do definitely agree.
Yeah, it was. I turned the game off after 3 quarters because I was getting late and I'm old and I had to get up early for work. And the Nets were still up and had been kind of bouncing around and were up by 18 at one point. And I remember going to bed and I was thinking, well, I wonder if the Nets are going to be the Nets from kind of early in the season, where they weren't finishing, they were giving up big leads, and I didn't think they'd lose the game. I thought they'd probably win by double digits going into it. I said, but I wonder if they're going to kind of, you know, maybe win by 5 or 6 and be that team that gives up, you know, but manages through their talent to still survive, or if they're going to, you know, close it out and, you know, maybe win it by, 15. And obviously it was the former. Right. But I think they looked really, to me, the Nets looked kind of discombobulated on offense. And I think that was largely due to the Knicks defense. I just kind of felt like they were scoring points because they're so talented, but I really wasn't sure what the offensive plan was.
Well, I mean, the difference between the two games from the Knicks perspective, from me watching a bit of both of them, is that I never had a feeling the Knicks were going to win the Nets game. I kind of had a feeling that they were going to win last night. I had a different opinion on the Nets. And who did the Nets play the game before the Knicks? Was it the Sixers? I can't. Who did they beat? Anyway, I remember I watched most of that game because I guess it was on or whatever. Was it the Celtics? I can't remember. I was impressed with the defense that the Nets.
Detroit.
Was it Detroit?
Oh, right.
Maybe it was it. Maybe it was the Knicks. I don't know. I was impressed with the defense that James Harden was playing in that game, and I'll tell you, Harden. He has to be at the top of the list for the MVP this year.
You're right. He was playing great D in that game. I did see something.
Yeah. Their defense has gotten better. There's no question about that. And they still there.
It was the Celtics game. It was the game before.
There are times when they don't play it, but they do have this ability to kind of, at least in short spurts, kind of lock it down.
Yeah.
So
Harden always seems to have the game in control.
Yeah,
he always seems to just be the guy.
Right.
Well, he had the 21, 15, and 15 against the Knicks. I mean, that's monster.
Yeah,
it was.
I'll tell you, I know you guys don't watch a lot of it, but I couldn't sleep last night, and the Portland game was on, and I don't think I've seen a comeback led by predominantly one player like that. I mean, they were playing the Pelicans. I understand. The Pelicans were up 17 with 6 minutes to go, and Damian Lillard decided, all right, we can't lose this one. And it was one of the best endings to it. I think it's probably the best ending to an NBA game I've seen this year. And it was on late. Nobody on the East Coast probably watches it. Half the people on the East Coast don't even know who Damian Lillard is. But he is another guy who has to be. The fact that he did not start the All-Star game was ridiculous. And I understand the fans vote and all that. But if he is not a first-team All-NBA this year, I don't know who is, because he's definitely a top 5 player in the NBA right now.
Right.
Yeah, if he's not your number 1 for MVP, then he should be your number 2.
And look out for Portland. McCollum's finally back. And look, I know there's a lot of Carmelo haters, but Carmelo Anthony just passed Hakeem Olajuwon for 11th place on the all-time scoring list. And he was a big part of this game last night. So I like Portland. I think the West is wide open. I think the West is, and once they get Nurkic back, I think Portland this year is a team that can challenge a Clippers or a Lakers in the first round, especially if they're not fully healthy. Meaning the Lakers or the Clippers.
Well, certainly the Lakers. Well, and don't forget the Lakers. I mean the Clippers. They got playoff P.
Yeah. So
which is has been so far a non-performance when it comes to the clutch. So we talk about how good the Clippers are, but you look at the playoff numbers and you go, well, they're not always that great. So
right.
Although it was Doc's fault that they were up 3-1 and lost.
Right.
And what is the health of the Lakers going to be? I mean, we don't know when is Davis going to come back and be healthy? Can he stay healthy? And if he doesn't, what is that toll? What is the toll that's going to take on LeBron?
I think the East and the West are dictated by 3 guys who are injury prone. It's Embiid, Durant, and Davis. The health of those guys is going to dictate who wins the NBA championship this year.
Although
of those 3, whoever's the healthiest is going to win.
Yeah,
I gotta say,
for the longest amount of time.
Even I was impressed with Kyrie Irving the other night.
Kyrie Irving's having a hell of a year. I mean, I don't know if he falls into a comeback player of the year, but as good as he is, I would argue he's the most improved player in the NBA this year.
And Kyrie against the Knicks the other night, he had 34 points.
I mean, him and Jeremy Grant are probably
he was knocking down like almost every outside shot.
Well, and he was just making moves that you just look at and you go, what was that? Right.
Yeah, you don't think he wants a shot at LeBron in the finals? Come on.
I think he absolutely does.
Of course
he does. It's can he keep his powder dry until then? Who knows? Right. It's just
Well, here's the thing though. Nets have won, I don't know, what is it? 13 out of 15 or 14 out of 16 or something.
Right.
And I think like all but one of those games has been without Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And
look, it's gonna. I think Durant is the one guy who I don't worry about coming back in because he's such a unselfish player in a lot of ways that he could touch the ball 8 times and have 27 points, go to the free throw line 10 times, and I think that they're going to be really, really dangerous on the offensive end when he gets back. It will change their rotation a little bit, and it will change some of the touches that some of the guys get, especially Harris, right. Which I'm telling you, he's the unsung hero of this team right now.
Yeah. Although you could also make the argument, I think, that Kevin Durant is their best defensive player.
Yeah.
Or at least among
the best.
Who's really better?
Yeah, that's kind of like
will him coming back, will that cause the other guys to say, okay, well now I can slack off on D a little bit? Hope not.
Right. He's a good off-ball defender. I'm not sure he's the best one-on-one defender. I will tell you this: I think the Nets have the ability to play defense, and their defense is getting better. I don't know what I mean. Their opponent's points per game now is 115. It was up there. I think it was higher than that.
It was over 120.
Over 120 when Harden got there. I mean, Harden is playing good defense, and he's able to collapse on the ball because with the way in which the team is constructed right now. I think against a bigger team, against an Embiid, against a tall Sixers team. The Sixers are big. From top to bottom, they're just big. Yeah. I think that is their only challenge. I think they can handle. They'll let Giannis score 30 and still beat the Bucks. But that's the only team I see giving the Nets a run for their money is Philadelphia.
Right.
Yeah. And that's obviously only with a healthy Joel Embiid.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, as good as they are, even without him, but
they're deeper than they have been, and they have a pretty good chemistry going on right now. But yeah, it definitely they have no chance without Embiid. The Nets still have a chance without Durant.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What do you think about? I have to throw this out here. It's only really of a couple of minutes.
Throw it away.
I heard the other day, no New York Knick has had 2 triple-doubles in a season, in the same season, since Mark Jackson in 88-89 until Julius Randle did it the other night.
That triple-doubles are up. They're up this year. They're up in the last couple of years, that's for sure. But that does sort of make sense in a lot of ways. I would, for me, I would guess it would have been somebody like, an Anthony Mason or somebody like that would have been able to pull off a triple double. 10 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, something along those lines.
Right.
But
low scoring triple double.
Yeah, Randall's moving the ball. He's rebounding and he's scoring, and it doesn't surprise me. The Knicks have never had that kind of triple double guy. The last guy they had that was probably Mark Jackson, or occasionally probably Charles Oakley, but. You didn't see a lot of triple doubles in the 90s when the Knicks were on their peak, and the teams in the 2000s that made a run with Melo and Stoudemire and those, there was nobody on that team that was even remotely triple double material.
Somewhere along the way in all that time, somebody would get 2 over an 82 game season, but nope.
Yep,
it's just an amazing stat.
It is.
It is.
It's mind-boggling.
As good as players like Patrick Ewing and Reggie Miller and all of these guys were, Charles Barkley, they didn't have a lot of triple doubles. I mean, that's why when you saw Russell Westbrook ringing them up like he did a few years back, it started to bring it back into the conversation. Points are up, passing is up. There's a lot more long rebounds in the game right now because of the prevalence of the three-point shot. So rebounds by guards and forwards are way up. You don't have as many centers in the game. So you look at it and you're like, okay, I get it. But there's a lot of times where there's not even a challenge for rebound. It's just whoever seems to swoop in and get the ball under the basket gets a rebound. It's not always that way, but there's not a lot of, you don't see many Buck Williams out there anymore, battling it out against the Davis boys from the Pacers to get a rebound.
And you're not allowed to really bang bodies anymore. So if you're not the guy there who's going to actually have it, or maybe have a shot against somebody else, you're not really going to stick your face in
exactly.
there.
And if you're an athletic guard like Russell Westbrook is, who's tall and athletic, and let's face it, usually around the free throw line or farther out. If that long rebound does come there, then you're going to gather him up. Not to take anything away from what he does or any of these other guys, but it's certainly a stat that is much more prevalent in the last 2 years even than it has been previously.
For a while, yeah.
I also wanted to mention real quickly. Sorry, just real quick. Congratulations to Karis LeVert, the former Net, who is now in Cleveland, and I believe is going to be back on the court any day now if he's not already back.
Good for him.
And he went to Cleveland, and as part of the Harding deal, and because of that, he got a full physical, and they discovered a tumor in his back, which could have been really deadly and could have spread throughout his body. But, even he says it pretty much, potentially saved his life, that trade. And but he had surgery, and I think he is back on the court or very close to it. So
it's crazy, right?
Yeah, insane, right? That you a trade saved your life potentially, but good guy and a very good player. So even though wish him luck and happy to see that he's back.
He's on Cleveland, and we'll see where he winds up by the end of the year because he's one of those guys who could certainly help a team. And
he is a commodity that somebody is most likely going to want as a piece, if not maybe the final piece to help him get over the hump. Yeah,
right. Absolutely.
Good to see him back, though.
Absolutely. And on that note, too, as far as players coming back from being out, Mitchell Robinson was cleared for practice, so he could be playing. He could be back and playing soon. So what that means, who knows? We'll see.
The Knicks will be better.
I mean, it just makes their defense even better. And a game like in a game where they have to play the Sixers, I think he's a difference maker because he can at least make Embiid work for it a little bit more. And against a team like the Nets or the Heat, even he's a guy who keeps a Jimmy Butler, makes a little bit more of an honest game out of paint scoring. And he is one of the better defensive big men in the league. He's pretty athletic, and there's no way that the Knicks are not a better team with him on the court. So
absolutely. So he comes back, and Rose gets out of what he's doing. Who knows? Maybe they win a couple of the games that we're thinking they're not, and hey, anything can happen.
Look, the fact that they're projected to be a 500 or slightly below 500 team, which is what I kind of said a few weeks back when we were discussing this, is an incredible improvement. And maybe it puts the Knicks on the map. The reason why I would like to see the Knicks make the playoffs is just because it puts them in the conversation. It gets them into the mix of media coverage, and it gets them into the mix of saying, hey, the Knicks are in the playoffs, And so for that 1A or 2B level player who's going to be a free agent next year, I know it sounds weird, but at least it makes the Knicks, it legitimizes them a little bit more as a destination for free agents.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's going to also bring attention to what is really appears to be a change in culture and attitude. Yeah. And really what apparently now, and I've heard this on the radio too, the nickname is Tibbs, but it's pronounced Thibodeau. That is what I've heard is the official.
I always what thought he has done, not just him, but I always thought that name was Thibodeau, not Thibodeau.
Because his nickname is Tibbs, but apparently it's Thibodeau, but it's Tibbs, not Thibs. But what he has brought to the team, what he has brought to the team. And it's going to, getting into the playoffs and maybe getting to be, I mean, everyone knows the Knicks, but I guess you could be living under a rock and not really realize, or if you're sort of a casual NBA fan out in the West, you might not be aware of what they're doing. And so for them to be in the playoffs, you might get a little bit more exposure. And
yeah, I mean, I think if you're a casual NBA fan watching the Lakers and the Clippers, you can't name a New York Knick.
Probably not.
And I mean that goes for a lot of teams.
Let me throw one more at you.
Throw one more. Go for it. Why the hell?
Well,
one more.
I wanted to bring up one Myers Leonard, who is center for the Miami Heat, who is injured right now, and might be getting suspended. He's the guy that was gaming. He has a Twitch account, and he was playing some game, and he said some very nasty things involving some racial slurs.
Is that right?
Some ethnic slurs. Yeah. And I don't know. I feel like it's kind of almost a series now. He said, well, I'll just say it.
Go for it.
He was playing, I don't know, whatever, some Call of Duty. And somebody was sniping him, I guess, shooting at him from far away. And he said, don't fucking snipe me, you fucking kike bitch. And of course, this was a live feed on Twitch. Him and his boys were playing, and so the word got around, and then he got in trouble. And first, he said he didn't know what the word meant.
He's full of shit,
which I thought was a ridiculously lame. Yeah, exactly. You figure he knew what fucking and bitch meant, and that he was going to educate himself, and he apologized to any Jewish people that he upset. So I guess my question is, where does this rank on the? He's going to come back, of course, but where would this rank on the? He shouldn't be allowed back. Not only because of what he said.
Where does this rank? Where does this rank on just? Oh God, you forget.
Well, ranks really high on
they're just babies. Like, could you ever imagine Willis Reed playing Call of Duty?
No.
It's just Jesus.
Spoken like a trio of old guys. Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Yeah.
I get it. I mean, I understand it.
Well, you know what? It's not like the three of us haven't played video games. Okay,
right.
Granted, the video games were a lot different when we were kids, but
that's true.
But
listen, I gave up after Mortal Kombat because it was too many combinations for me. Once you have to press like 6 buttons in a certain order, I'm not interested.
I prefer
Punch,
video
kick,
games with
move.
one joystick with the button on the top and the button on the side, and I'm good there.
Look, if he wants to talk like that, then he needs to run for president. Okay.
But again, my question is, again, he's not going to get kicked out forever or anything. But kind of where does this rank on the scale of maybe he should not be given a second chance? Especially, is it worse because he came out with a lame explanation? Oh, I don't know what the word means. Who uses words they don't mean when you're...
Who uses a word that they don't know what the meaning of the word is?
When you're cursing someone out, come on.
It's horrible, and it's also the fact that it's still in today's day and age, it's something that comes out of people's mouths. And look, he's a young guy. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He needs to show some remorse and understanding for it. League, whatever the league decides to do. I mean, there's no legal. If he was talking to a Doberman and said that, then I could understand that he didn't know what the meaning of the word was. But
he said,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. If he was talking to a Doberman, then he'd have to be drug tested. But yeah.
Here's his quote: "I am deeply sorry for using an anti-Semitic slur during a live stream yesterday. While I didn't know what the word meant at the time, my ignorance about its history and how offensive it is to the Jewish community is absolutely not an excuse, and I was just wrong." And he apologized to those in the Jewish community who I have hurt. Right. Now, this was
anybody
also
outside the Jewish community that he hurt.
Now, here's another thing. Let me throw this in here too. Last year, after George Floyd and the protests that were going on, he was one of a couple of guys who did not kneel during the national anthem. He decided to stand. He said that his brother, I think, was a Marine, and so that he was standing to honor his brother. And it seems like, according to the story, the players with him, teammates, including black teammates, would kind of put an arm around his leg during the anthem to show solidarity. But there is that instance as well, or that going on. Now, again, I guess if his brother was a Marine, which we'll assume is true, you could kind of justify that, but you could also look at it as this is a guy who doesn't want to kneel for black people being, killed by police, and now he's calling people kites.
Look, the whole kneeling thing. The two different things here. The kneeling thing being conflated to disrespect the troops or police or whoever.
Yeah, I know
is just a bunch of bullshit to allow people to put this into some other form of argument. It's to change the discussion away from what the original intent was. Right. So, we know where he stands. We probably, literally, we know kind of maybe where his leanings are. I mean...
So do you take that into account and say, you know what? You're kind of a shitheel.
Well,
who's a racist, and you don't belong in the NBA.
Who was receiver on the Eagles who made an ethnic slur, and I mean, they sort of handled it internally, but he kind of paid for it in some ways.
Yeah. Well, I'm asking the question. I don't know if anybody should ever be banned permanently because they're, apparently a racist, but I don't know. I kind of want to get opinions about it.
I agree where Harry was going there. I do agree that they should handle it internally, and whatever internally they decide is correct, then that, and the correct punishment procedure, whatever you call it.
Now, by internally, you mean the league or the team?
The team. The team.
So
the league wants to get involved. The league wants to get involved. I mean,
they kind of almost do, don't they?
You're right. He's a shitheel. All right, and he's full of shit that he didn't know what that word meant. Yeah, I just completely.
But there's so many different layers to how we respond to this. So he's completely glossed over and I don't know if he was playing a female or not, or if bitch was just some sort of
I think it might have just been the way anybody uses the word bitch to mean, a weak.
But we've completely glossed over
that.
that. So we've completely glossed over that. So, we haven't. That's okay, I guess, because there was no apology for that. The anti-Semitism, let me ask you this question. If the racial slur was different and pointed towards a different group, if it was pointed towards African Americans, which is, let's face it, is 98% of the NBA, would the reaction be different?
Of course it would.
So, and I mean, I know Julian Edelman and a few other people came out and offered to, educate him or whatever the case might be. It's ignorance, and it needs to be called out. I don't know. What is he, a 24-year-old guy? I mean,
maybe.
I think there's nothing legally, like he didn't do. This isn't an offense where he's going to be jailed. So if it's in the NBA's guidelines and in the contract, the player's contract to be dealt with by the NBA, then it should be dealt with that way. If it's not, then it should be dealt with by the team. And it shouldn't just be swept under the rug by people like Edelman. Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody says something stupid. Right. But that's kind of a really specific thing to be shouting out while you're playing a video.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't characterize this as a mistake other than the context of he shouldn't have said anything. He didn't say this by mistake. It was directed and it was said purposefully.
I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt that he didn't know.
I understand.
And that maybe he loosely knew what it meant. Maybe he thought it was a slur for Germans. I don't know. But my point being is that we would never know about this if it wasn't for that. We're fucking micromanaging everybody's life by what they say, see, and hear.
Well, we wouldn't know about it if he wasn't broadcasting
it on Twitch,
live on the internet.
Well, I think that's where he was going with that. Every single thing is looked at.
Right.
Social media.
It's also the problem of everybody wanting to broadcast everything. Right. Yeah. It's just like somebody needs to. The underlying problem is that yes. We have people that say anti-Semitic things all the time. If this can lead to a better discussion on why that is offensive and why we shouldn't be saying anti-Semitic things, then great. Meanwhile, I just think the NBA needs to do a better job of educating these guys, of saying, hey, look, we want you to have fun. We want you to do what you normally do. We want you to have the best life that you possibly can. We're not trying to sort of put you on a pedestal in a way that overanalyzes everything that you do. But come on, just just do this in private,
right?
And at the same time, wake up a little bit to what's going on in the world. And learn from this, and maybe this can be a learning experience. Maybe he can actually. I don't think it needs to go away, and I don't think he needs to be, canceled or whatever the case might be. But maybe he needs to actually continue to talk about this and become somebody who actually educates other people on the situation.
I'm glad you said that, because I was just going to tell this story. A couple of years ago, I had to go to the high school. They were doing a presentation about drunk driving I think it was for all the seniors, and it was at night, and they had one of the sheriffs was there, and they had a guy who was from some institute, and they talked about the statistics and what drinking, peer pressure and all that kind of typical stuff. One of the most powerful things they did is they had a guy there.
Billy Joel?
No, I think he was 23.
That is more powerful.
And he had driven drunk and killed his best friend. And part of his sentence is the agreement that he made. He spent some time in jail, but part of his ongoing punishment, if you will, and he agreed to this. He wasn't sentenced to it. It was something he agreed to. It was offered to him. Is he came to these presentations and told his story, and it was one of the most powerful things that I think I've ever seen. And you could see the effect it had on the crowd when he was up there talking about going out and drinking and his, feeling invincible and all that, and how he killed his friend and this and that. I would like to maybe see something along, as you just said, to help educate people. Maybe this guy needs to become educated and then go out and talk about what he did and why it's wrong, and help educate some other people. Maybe that should be part of that. I think that would probably be a better thing to do than just out and out cancel somebody.
Yeah, I agree. And
as long as it's genuine.
Yeah, as long as it's genuine, and as long as it's reaching people. Look, racism, anti-Semitism, whatever form of prejudice that you want to say, it has long been ingrained into our culture in various ways, in different ways, culturally, based on where you grew up, who you are, and what influences you had, both good and bad. And it seems as if we have given a platform to much less dog whistling and much more overt racism and sexism, anti-Semitism, whatever ism you want to put on it, in the last few years, the last 4 or 5 years. And for a lot of guys or gals who are coming up at a certain age, maybe this is a form of imitation, and maybe this is just something that's accepted in certain circles. I think anything we can do to help squelch that and point it back in the opposite direction is a good thing. And let's face it, athletes, celebrities of any sort are best at doing this. And so,
they have platforms.
They have platforms. Mm-hmm. And he may have a platform, into something, into an audience that goes even beyond the NBA. So yeah, maybe it can be a good thing. But look, I'm sure he's not alone.
No.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
And unfortunately, it came to light, and I'm sure he'll learn from this. And I think when you are put in a situation like that, where you're embarrassed and where you're brought into a spotlight under, a form of being prejudiced or being, called into question about whether it's anti-Semitism or racism, I think you do step up, but I do think you learn a little bit. Most people do. And there are other extreme personalities who double down. But right. I don't think he's one of these guys, and I think he will learn from it, and maybe others will as well.
And maybe his initial explanation, that kind of reaction, that deny and find something which is going to sound plausible to you in the moment. I didn't know what the word meant. That might be just a very natural reaction when you're confronted with somebody who goes, "Hey, man, we heard what you said, and you're a freaking racist."
Right.
And, he might not know what it means, and he may have heard it previously on some sort of, gaming platform. I don't know.
I don't really buy it.
Let's not speculate about it. Yeah. Wherever you heard it, whether you heard it from, whether it was, from friends or family or elsewhere on social media or TV or movies or who knows?
This is the most you're going to hear about him.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I just hope it's not a case where he plays the role, says what needs to be said, does what needs to be done,
and it gets swept under the rug,
and doesn't really learn anything from it.
Yeah, that needs to be part of it.
That can be too easy to do.
Let's hope it does. So
we'll keep an eye on it for you, folks.
We will. We'll keep an eye on it. So why don't we take this time to move on to our top 10 list tonight, folks? Our top 10 list tonight is a special one. You know why? Because we only have 10 people on our top 10 list tonight. Not 11, not 12, not 15, or even 18. 10. Our top 10 list tonight. I love the reaction I got from both of you. Our top 10 list tonight.
How did that happen?
Is top 10 power forwards in NBA history. And we'll do this the same way. We'll keep it going like we did last week at the movies.
That was a good idea.
I'll announce everything, and you guys can chat about it. So we'll get started with number 10. Number 10 comes to you from former New York Knick Dave DeBusschere. And let me get his picture up for you right here. Harry, anything to say about Mr. DeBusschere?
Yeah, it should be higher on the list, but he's a big part of those New York Knicks championship teams, and maybe one of the early kind of power forwards who started to change the game a little bit. He was a great athlete. I think he played baseball professionally too, if I'm not mistaken. He was 6'6", 6'7", so at the time maybe a little bit smaller than some of today's power forwards, but just a rebounding machine. And when he came to the Knicks from the Pistons, it was really the final personnel change that gave that Knicks team exactly what they needed. It allowed Bradley to move to small forward. He, much like Oakley later on with Ewing, he was that guy who in that front line with him and Willis Reed were formidable. And he was a good shooter. He was a great defender, one of the best rebounders in the history of the game. And one, again, on that team, they all had a basketball intelligence that was off the chart. 2-time NBA champion and one of the, I think he was one of the top 50 players of all time. So, and in New York, especially people like my dad's age, he was revered. 16.1 points per game, 11 rebounds, and almost 3 assists. In a which would probably translate to 24, 16 and 5 in today's NBA.
Sure. And
he was maybe the 5th option on that team at times.
By the way, he played for the White Sox. He was a pitcher.
There you go. Wow. Imagine seeing him on the mound. Jeez. Right. Randy Johnson before Randy Johnson.
It was Randy. He was big unit before the big unit.
Yeah. Hall of Famer. He was, in 96, he was named one of the 50 greatest players in NBA history. I think a lot of people forget about DeBusschere. There's a lot of personalities on that Knicks team. And obviously with Willis Reed and Earl Monroe and Walt Frazier and even Cassie Russell and some of the, other players, Bill Bradley, he was never the top, but he was always, I remember as a kid, when he was obviously retired, but he was always on local TV and radio doing ads for something, the Muffler Shop or Midas Muffler or some, he was a presence in New York. And I think, he was kind of, what people used to refer to as a lunch pail kind of guy. Yeah. And, I think he's grossly underrated.
I would agree with you, but definitely had to be in the top 10. That's for sure. So.
Yeah.
Number 10, Dave DeBusschere. Let's move on to number 9. Number 9 is Mr. Bob McAdoo.
Great name.
Great name. Just as long as it wasn't Ben.
He was, again, a guy who was really versatile in that, was he a 4? Was he a 5? He played center a little bit. I think most people probably know him for his time as a 6th man or 7th man on the Lakers teams when he finally won a championship. Sure. But he was a prolific scorer. I believe he started in the ABA. Wasn't on the Knicks for long, but he was very memorable, and he hopped around quite a bit.
He was on the Knicks a few years. Yeah,
4 years maybe. I know he played for the Nets for a year or two. 2-time NBA champion with the Lakers, 5-time All-Star, and he won the MVP in '75. He was a guy who could put the ball in the basket, and even much like he kind of Carmelo Anthony reminds me a little bit about McAdoo. McAdoo is a much more power player, but he was also really versatile around the rim. And towards the end of his career, he could come in and, 20 minutes of playing time could put up 20 points. Sure. And he still, even with the career that he still averaged over 22 points a game and almost 10 rebounds. he was probably at many points in his career the best, one of the best power forwards in the game.
73 through 76 with the Buffalo Braves, I believe it was. He averaged 30.6, 34.5, and 74.75, and then 31.1, 75, 76. And those were league leading years.
He was a 3-time NBA scoring champion.
Those were the 3 years.
People always sort of laugh at me when I compare him and Carmelo. They're sort of the same players. Where towards the end of McAdoo's career, before he went to the Lakers, people were kind of, I don't know. He was on the Celtics, and he was on the Pistons, and he went to the Nets, and he was always the guy who could put up a lot of points but could never win a championship.
Right.
Well, lo and behold, he was a big part of those teams, especially that first championship before Worthy really became part of that incredible Lakers team. He was really good, and he was a good defender. I think he could guard a center for the whole game and allow Kareem to switch off. I mean, he was one of those guys who was very versatile and a good baseline player. Really great baseline player. 5
seasons with Buffalo, 4 with the Lakers, 3 with the Knicks, 2 with Detroit, and then 1 each with Philly, Boston, and New Jersey. And then out of the NBA after 85-86, he played 7 more years in Italy, which I don't even have stats for him here. So finally, I guess retiring from basketball.
Forley.
Although I guess finally finishing up in 1993.
Yeah.
So 72, 73 to 93, a nice 20-year career.
And then he was had a 20-year career as an assistant coach in Miami too.
Great side too.
Yeah. I mean, his time on the Knicks kind of the old school was getting old, but I mean, he played on a team that for the first year for the Knicks was still coached by Red Holtzman, and was Bob McAdoo, Clyde Frazier, Earl Monroe, Spencer Haywood, Bill Bradley, and Phil Jackson. And the next year, Willis Reed became the coach. Yeah. So, but the Knicks were kind of going like this. McAdoo was kind of going like that, and it just never meshed. But, the Knicks traded him and wound up getting Bill Cartwright in the draft. So, who later went on to win championships without the Knicks.
Without him, man. Anyway, all right, number 9, Bob.
My college roommate called him Bill the Bag Cartwright.
There you go. So move on to number 8. Number 8. Number 8 is Bob Pettit.
Bob Pettit, not related to Andy Pettit.
Not related to Andy. And we should point out that Bob McAdoo is not related to Ben.
No. He's not related to Bob Pettit either.
He's not related to Bob Pettit either.
Well, you don't know. You don't know.
I don't think so.
Robert E. Lee Pettit Jr. Robert E. Lee Pettit Jr. So there you go.
Good numbers. 26 a game, 16 rebounds, 3 assists. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. He was an NBA champion. He was an 11-time All-Star, 2-time NBA Most Valuable Player. People forget about Pettit, but I mean, he was sort of in that era right before the NBA really started taking off in the 60s. I mean, he's played in the 50s. He was a force to be reckoned with. Back then, 6'9", 210 pounds is a big boy. It's a point guard nowadays, but
third 20 numbers.
It's a small forward nowadays.
I mean, 26, 16. Yeah, I mean, it's in 3 assists.
That's 16, by the way, is the third best rebounding per game in NBA history, and trails a couple of other guys named Russell and Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And by the way, averaging a double-double throughout basically his entire career was Bob Pettit.
And I think the reason why he's unknown is because he played his entire career for Milwaukee and St. Louis Hawks before they obviously moved to Atlanta.
Exactly.
So I mean,
Is that a thing? Is that like a lot of Milwaukee teams wind up in Atlanta? Is that what?
Well, they had Milwaukee teams wind up in Milwaukee usually, but yeah.
But
the Braves.
True. In any event, I digress.
Bob Pettit.
Bob Pettit, number 8. All right, brings us to number 7. Number 7, Kevin McHale. Let's talk about Kevin McHale. He put his picture up here.
Just hated him for years and years and years. And why did I hate him? Because he was really good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Of course.
And almost a guy who, I mean, think about the guys that he played with. Maybe got more press, but he was a phenomenal player.
Well, he was real rangy. He probably had one of the best turnaround jump shots the game's ever seen. He was a great defender, and he was one of those guys that would just get in your head. And there was a lot of them on the Celtics. But he was just a battler. I mean, he just battled. I mean, didn't he play with broken feet?
Yeah.
I mean, he other than Bird, he was their primary scorer. He was the guy who could consistently put the. And I think if it wasn't for some injury problems, he probably would be higher on this list, and his numbers would be a lot higher. Because again, he kind of he hung around long enough where he became a little bit more of a third or fourth option in the offense. But still, I mean, a 3-time champion, 7-time All-Star. He was a 3-time All-Defensive Team. 6th man of the year. Again, when he accepted that role and sort of made the 6th man something that the 6th or 7th man, coming off the benches. And I think that's why his career lasted as long as it did, is because he accepted that role and he excelled at it. There are some epic battles with Kevin McHale and the Knicks, Kevin McHale and Bernard King, Kevin McHale, obviously, and all of the Lakers. He was that good. He was that good. And he's one of those guys who I think if he came into the league today, I think he would be adaptable enough and would have even more range than he did back in the day and would still be one of those players. He wasn't really a post player who had to bang. He was more of a guy who could really position himself in a way where he could use his length to shoot over you.
Yeah. Well, look, 55% from the field.
Yeah.
That's pretty darn good, even
amongst probably lower than Robert Parrish. So their front line was pretty efficient. They had a pretty good front line.
Not bad. They got some guys who can put it in the hole. Yeah.
There he goes. Number 7, Kevin McHale. That'll bring us to number 6. Number 6 is Elvin Hayes. Let me throw his picture up here. Elvin Hayes. He got in the league with the first overall pick in the 1968 draft, selected by the San Diego Rockets. Became Houston, obviously. 1-time NBA champion, 12-time NBA All-Star, 69 through 80 consecutive years. Right there.
And led the league in scoring, 68-69.
Yep.
Welcome to the league, young man.
Welcome to the league. You're the leader. Averaged 21 points a game over his career, over 27,000 points. And he was another double-double there. He averaged 12.5 rebounds a game.
Well, think about that front line with him and Unseld on the year that they won the championship. I mean, he was a guy who could put. I mean, he had over 27,000 points in his career.
Sure,
12.5 rebounds a game and over 21 points. He's a guy who I also think gets forgotten a little bit just because he floated around so much. But
we went back with the Rockets after.
Back with the Rockets, yeah.
But, yeah, there he goes. That's our number 6, Elvin Hayes. Gets us to the top 5, and we're going to start off with the big ticket. There he is right there, Kevin Garnett. Let's throw him up. I think he's singing a song.
I think he's the only actor who's been in multiple movies on this list.
There you go. Actually, I think you're right. Started his career in Minnesota in 95. first round pick, 5th overall by Minnesota. Went to the Celtics, the Nets, and then back to the Wolves. One-time NBA champion in 2008 with of course, the Celtics right there. 15.
He hung around long enough.
And got a championship. And I think the Nets were hoping that he'd bring it down there when they pulled him down there. But 15-time All-Star. Crazy numbers. 26,000 points. Another double-double, 17.8 points per game, and over 14,000 rebounds. So he had 10 rebounds a game.
Yeah, I sort of think Kevin Garnett was a center, but I think because he was not a physical center, people sort of said, he's a power forward. Regardless, he was a great player. I always felt that, especially when he was with the Timberwolves, he was a guy whose numbers were inflated on a team that was never fantastic. And, look, his numbers speak for themselves.
Mm-hmm. They do.
Yeah, he's 18th in career scoring, and I think he's 8th or 9th in total rebounds. And he was also just a crazy good defensive player too. He was really brilliant both ways on both ends of the court.
He was, and then when he had another big guy next to him, he was a great off the ball defender. He was a great shot blocker, and that Celtics team that won the championship was a really good defensive team.
Yeah,
and
they were really good.
And they had a couple pretty good shooters from, as we all know. But
and the pre-genesis of the big three, right?
Oh yeah,
it's kind of sort of the birth of that that big three.
Yep.
That formula for bringing those guys together. Look, the Celtics, they sold out their immediate and medium future to put that team together in the hopes of getting a championship. It worked.
It worked. They got the championship. So he was also MVP in 2004 with the Timberwolves.
Great player on a lousy team for years, for decades, it seemed.
A long time.
And
they were a team that sort of had some talent for a while there with Marbury, and they just underperformed.
Right.
I think you mean Starbury.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was when he was with the Nets. He was Starbury with the Nets.
It was Starbury.
Yeah,
they could never get over the hump.
There's no slide. He was the Kyrie Irving of the day.
Yeah.
You know what? That's a good analogy. I like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty much true.
Yeah.
There you go. Number 5.
He was the prototype.
And Kevin Garnett was the Kevin Durant of the day.
Yeah, there you go. Then I'll have it there. Number 5, the big ticket, Kevin Garnett. That'll bring us to number 4. Number 4 is none other than Sir Charles. This is Draymond Green's favorite old player, right?
They're best buddies.
They're best buds.
Yeah, I mean, Draymond is just heads and tails above Barkley. Let's face it.
I'm tell you. I mean, he's way up on that list. I'm telling you. Sir Charles, the round mound of rebound.
I think that Barkley might have the record for most nicknames, right?
Nicknames, I think he does actually.
Round mound of rebound.
No, Shaq definitely does.
I don't know. Barkley he had the round mound. He had the Chuck wagon.
Right.
The incredible bulk.
Do you know he never went? He never went by Chuck. And I forget who it was. One of his coaches called him Chuck, and it just stuck. I think it was what's his name, who just passed away. This coach of the Suns, Paul Westphal. Paul Westphal called him Chuck, and that was it. He never went by Chuck before.
That's funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, he was drafted in the first round again, 5th overall pick. Same thing in '84 by the Sixers. Played for the Sixers, the Suns, and finished his career up with the Rockets the last few years of his career.
Those were great Sixers teams back then. I mean,
they really were.
I mean, if Dr. J and Moses Malone were a little younger, I mean,
that would have been interesting.
Yeah,
that's for sure. That is for sure. And we got another double-double candidate here. Almost 24,000 points. He averaged 22.1 points per game, and rebounds 12,500. It's 11.7 rebounds per game. And here's an 11-time All-Star. And here's an interesting fact for Draymond Green, and he needs to remember this. Sir Charles was the NBA MVP in '93. So until you get one of them, Draymond, shut up.
Yeah, that's never going to happen.
So,
I don't think Draymond Green cares whether he gets an MVP.
Probably not.
I don't know. He may, but I don't know. He's probably not that worried about it.
Not so much. So anyway. But Charles Wade Barkley, there you go. That's number 4 on our list. I'll bring us to number 3 is Mr. Nowitzki, Dirk Nowitzki. There he goes right there. Dirk Werner Nowitzki. Go ahead. Take it away there.
I think it's Werner.
Werner?
Yeah,
it's It's Werner.
I think it's Werner.
When it's
Dirk
Nowitzki.
Werner Nowitzki.
Dirk Werner Nowitzki. There you go. That's his. He's he's drafted in the 9th pick overall, first round of the '98 draft by the Bucks, and didn't play for the Bucks. He played for the Mavs afterwards. NBA champion in 2011, NBA Finals MVP in 2011, MVP of the league in 2007, 14-time NBA All-Star. 4-time NBA All First Team, 5-time All NBA Second Team, 31,560 points in his career. That's 20.7 points per game, and he had 11,489 rebounds as well. Didn't get him into the double category like the last 3 guys, but he's close enough. So,
did he come in? He came into the league after playing in Europe for.
He played in Europe. Yeah, he played in Germany. He played in Germany for 4 years.
Yeah, so I mean, think about there's 2 or 3 at least prime years that were, that he was not in the NBA. Look, I always thought Dirk Nowitzki was a great player, and he rose up this list for me because of 1 playoff series and 1 playoff series only, and that was the 2011 NBA Finals, which I still think is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, upset in the history of the NBA Finals. This, put it into context, this was after the big 3, the big hoopla. You had Dwayne Wade, Chris Bosh, LeBron James. The Heat were huge favorites. And Nowitzki felt a little, there's stories of the Heat players kind of making fun of him and calling him weak. And he just said, fuck you. And took an entire team on his back, literally, and was lights out in that 2011 NBA Finals.
It was crazy.
And I've never rooted for a German as much as I did in that series, because I couldn't stand the big 3 and still can't stand all of that. And I just loved it. I just absolutely loved it. And he dragged along Jason Kidd, who was sort of on his last leg, and Sean Marion was kind of. He didn't have a lot of help. He didn't have a lot of other really great players on his team. I would argue he had less talent on his team than LeBron did when he was on the Cavs and won that series. I think this is the single most. I think this is the best single performance in an NBA Finals by an NBA player. In the fact that what he did was really so dominant in what the team did, and I've never seen anybody dominate single-handedly like he did ever, and it was incredible.
Yeah, it was one of those things where you can't possibly make another fall away. And again, he came through every single time.
And he made defensive plays and steals. And he was unbelievable.
There's a couple of guys in the league right now who may end up surpassing him. I think we know their names. We get to watch them play right now. But I think at this particular moment, is there anyone that you would classify as a greater international player in NBA history than Dirk Nowitzki? Probably not.
Probably not.
No, I mean, because you're right.
I think Tony Parker and Ginobili are up there, but they're not at this level.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, he was just because
it wasn't like he had one. Is Tim Duncan an international player?
I don't know. I don't think of him that way.
I mean, he's not a U.S. citizen. I mean, he came from, and he wasn't European, but he did not. He was not a U.S. product. So
but he was born in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, but that's a U.S. territory.
It's U.S. territory, so
kind of the same thing.
Kind of sort of.
I don't think he played many years in the Virgin Islands League, though. I don't think there is one.
He played through high school there, and then he came to Wake Forest. So
right, but I mean, there was no pro league.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, no, I mean,
but it wasn't just that once. Nowitzki was a crazy, consistent, quality player for years and years, and put it all together in that series, and it was a beautiful thing to watch.
It was.
In fact, it's probably. I mean, yeah, you could say. You could talk about that Cleveland team that beat Golden State, but they had LeBron. And Dirk Nowitzki is despite his impressive stats, he's not LeBron. So, I think your argument, he did more with less to win a series that no one would expect him to win.
No.
Against a powerhouse Big Three team,
I think it's by far the biggest upset in NBA Finals history. It has to be.
It's certainly at the top of the list, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But well, there you go. Number 3, Dirk Nowitzki. Brings us to number 2. Number 2 is the mailman himself. There he is, Karl Malone. And I picked that picture too because the other guy in the picture kind of just missed getting in the list.
He flopped into 11th place.
But in any event, there you go. Karl Malone, the mailman. Carl Anthony Malone, the mailman, drafted in the first round, 13th overall pick in 85 by the Utah Jazz. 2-time NBA MVP, 14-time All-Star, 2-time NBA All-Star Game MVP. Just list goes on and on. 36,000, almost 37,000 points over the course of his career. 25 points per game was his average.
Pick and roll and get out of my way, Greg Ostertag.
Just fun to watch. That's for sure.
I mean, he had that sweet little. I don't even know if you call it a turnaround because it was we just face you up and just that little flick of the wrist and. I mean, when he came down the lane out off a pick and roll with the little shovel pass for Stockton, it was just like, get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
But he was another guy who, much like Barkley, and was a victim of the Jordan years. Yeah. And even hopping on the Lakers train couldn't get him one later in his career. But he was incredible. I mean, and so consistent.
Yeah, that was the thing about him, his consistency. Just game in and game out and year in and year out. And listen, if the Jazz could have, was there a better pick and roll combination than Malone and Stockton? Certainly not at the time. But it always kind of got bogged down in the playoffs, and they never had enough other ways to score.
Well, they came close. I mean, when your best defender is right up on the best player in the NBA, and the guy gives him a forearm shiver, pushes him away to score the game-winning shot. It's look, they got closer than the Knicks did. I would say a little bit. It was just circumstances. They never had. I mean, they had Jeff Hornacek, and they had a couple other guys who were adequate, but they never had that dynamic third player, that dynamic just lights out long range shooter that could overcome. And they, it was Michael Jordan and the Bulls. There's a lot of great players, some of them on this list, that don't have a championship because of that.
That's very true. And that will do it for number 2, the mailman, Karl Malone. And let's get to our number 1 of this list. Our number 1 power forward in NBA history is Drum roll, please. Mr. Tim Duncan. We just spoke about him before, about 30 seconds ago, actually. Born in St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Drafted with the first overall pick in '97 by the Spurs, and played his entire career with the Spurs. And I think he's back. He's an assistant coach now with the Spurs.
I don't know.
I think he is. But 5-time NBA champion, 99, 03, 05, 07, and 2014. 3-time NBA Finals MVP, 2-time NBA MVP, 15-time All-Star. All-Star Game MVP in 2000. Almost 26,500 points total. He's another double-double candidate there with 15,000 rebounds, 19 points per game, and 10.8 rebounds per game. That's Timothy Theodore Duncan, the Big Fundamental. There's his nickname. Had to throw that in there. So. The Big Fundamental.
Yeah, he's the reason why I became a Spurs fan. I mean, him and Pop. Right. And I just loved the way they played basketball. I just loved the way he went about things. He was, the only guy who I think remotely reminds me of him these days a little bit. And I think it's a little bit more put on with this guy is Kawhi Leonard, and the fact that they're just so methodical about how they go through things, and they're so consistent, and they're so fundamental in how they play the game on both sides of the court. And that's what really makes Duncan, I think, top this list, is the fact that he was, he's a 15-time NBA All-Star and the only player to be selected both the All-NBA and all defensive teams for 13 consecutive seasons.
Right.
That's, the Spurs have a way of really sort of grooming these players who are just amazing on both sides of the ball. Yeah. And, not only I think the best power forward by far, I don't know if he was consensus. It looks like maybe he was on our list, but
I believe he was.
I think he's one. I think he's one of the top, 7 to 10 basketball players in the history of the game. I mean, he's just that good. Yeah, 5 rings, baby. 5.
Yeah.
Five.
I was kind of hoping that he wasn't going to win the first one he won.
Yeah,
but
yeah. Well, that was called Season of Chaos, and God, yeah. Who was the Spurs guard who went on to coach who hit those corner threes? Yeah, that team of Bad News Bears could never have been.
No, I know.
I mean, Larry Johnson, I think, was playing on one leg, and Latrell Sprewell was under investigation. And
Latrell Sprewell.
I mean, what's his name? Dudley was starting at center.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
Not Dudley Do-Right.
Chris Dudley, yeah.
Chris Dudley.
But
Duncan and the Spurs he was the epitome of the team that was the epitome of team. And that's, I think, the beauty of Pop.
And I think that Pop and those Spurs teams and Duncan signifies the end of that era of basketball. You'll never see that again.
You won't.
You'll never see it again.
And remember, too, his nickname is the Big Fundamental, but don't forget his other nickname with him and Robinson.
The Twin Towers.
The Twin Towers.
Yeah. Well, they weren't the original Twin Towers. The original Twin Towers were, what's his name? Elijah Wan and it was the guy from Virginia, Ralph Sampson.
Ralph Sampson,
yeah. But
Spurs were in that era. They were easy to root for, especially if your team was not so good, because they were, I don't know, kind of anti.
They were old school. They represented everything.
Yeah, they were old school, and they were likable. Nobody on the team was a jackass.
The NBA hated it because they were horrible for ratings, because it was just the opposite of what every young kid wants to see, which is some person puffing his shirt out and showing you his number after he hits a three-pointer.
And high flying and jamming it and then screaming, and they were not that.
But they were. It was always interesting with them. I just those years with the Spurs were just great, especially even the latter years. You know, they had good teams, but it always revolved around Duncan. And he was just such a workhorse. And like I said, you want to learn how to play a post game, just watch tape of Tim Duncan.
Yeah.
Watch his footwork. I mean, he's that good. He's that good.
Yeah. And I think, he was, those couple of years, Robinson, a lot of that attitude, that poise, and that lack of showmanship, that kind of came from David Robinson. And
right.
And Duncan sort of, I think it was partly his personality, but he also kind of adopted that as well. I'm just going to go about my business and be a great player. I'm not going to get in your face. I'm not going to yell and scream. I'm not going to beat my chest. This is work. This is what we're here to do.
Exactly.
And, it wasn't always the most exciting thing to watch, but it was beautiful to watch those teams, the way they played. The ball movement, as well as, the team play, as well as the incredible individual skill that some of those players had.
Right. Well, after they beat the Knicks in, what was that, 99?
99, yeah.
Popovich went up to Jeff Van Gundy and said, "Hey, I got Tim Duncan and you don't. That's the difference." That's what he said to him. And
pretty much.
That was the truth, Yeah. I mean, would that series have been a little different if Patrick Ewing could have? But no, you knew Ewing wasn't going to make it. No. He was just literally on his last legs. And, you sort of, as a Knicks fan, I remember that series. I sort of, getting to the finals was just sort of like, all right, this is it. I mean, can we win one? And
we did. We won one.
Yeah, but you just knew that Spurs team was going to just finally devour this team that was literally just like a scatter shot of insanity. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy holding on to Alonzo Mourning's leg sums it up. Still my favorite coach of the Knicks of all time. Don't get me wrong, no. But and there was something about that team and that whole playoff run which was absolutely fun to watch. But you knew you were watching something that was about to fall apart at any moment. Like the wheel was falling off, and it still somehow made it down the highway.
It got there.
Yeah, you were watching the spokes pop off one by one. But
the wheel fell off, and the other wheel fell off, and they were both spinners.
Right. But in any event, well, there you go. That's our number one on our top 10 power forwards in NBA history, Mr. Timothy Duncan. There you go. Awesome. That's our top 10 for tonight. And that, of course, will lead us into our segment of Old Balls. Old Balls. Harry, why don't you tell us who this week's Old Balls recipient is?
Old Balls, and you talk about power forwards. This is my favorite power forward of all time, and I think he is maybe my favorite basketball player of all time. Is none other than Mr. Charles Oakley, who unfortunately has lately been, in the last 5 years or 4 years, has been in the news because of being mistreated by security at Madison Square Garden. But Charles Oakley started his career with the Chicago Bulls. Was kind of Michael Jordan's protector in a lot of ways, and they remained good friends even after he came to the Knicks. But he came to the Knicks, what was it, 86? And 88. He was on the Knicks for 11 years. And I mean, the day the Knicks traded him for Marcus Camby was, to me, one of those days that's just, oh, God, how could this happen? But,
right.
Oakley's, his numbers are never going to blow anybody away. But early on in his career, he was a rebounding machine. I think he led the league in rebounding when he was on the Bulls. And he came to the Knicks, and look, the Knicks were winning games 83 to 72. But he was still a double guy, and he was a good passer, and he just, much like someone like a Draymond Green, as much as I dislike him, he did the intangibles in ways that don't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. If there was a loose ball, if there was, a hustle play that needed to be made, if there was somebody that needed to be put on their ass, Charles Oakley was your guy. And in the 90s, I don't think there was ever a tougher basketball player than Charles Oakley. I remember him guarding Shaq one-on-one and being able to push Shaq around. He was a guy who could probably jump about as high as I could. Whenever he tried to dunk it, it was always at, he was 6'9", but it was like, please go in. His layups looked like, Lou Piniella trying to catch a foul ball in the outfield. It was always interesting, but he was a fan favorite, and he was, maybe the most beloved New York Knick of all time, especially of those 80s, late 80s, early 90s team. And, another guy who could be on this list who reminded me of him, but he was the gentleman version of Charles Oakley, was Horace Grant, who was the reason why the Bulls traded him to the Knicks. And another guy who goes unsung, but he was a great player. And, when I think of those Knicks teams, love Patrick Ewing. John Starks is amazing, but when I think of those Knicks teams, I think of Charles Oakley.
Yeah, I do too. I have to admit, you are definitely right. There you go. That was this week's Old Balls.
Old Balls.
Mr. Charles Oakley. And another...
not that old, by the way. He's only 57.
Not really that old. No, not at all.
But I couldn't, I was going to do Truck Robinson, because maybe the best name ever of a power forward.
There you go.
But, you can't leave out the Oak Man.
Well, it's just another, I was going to say, it's just another candidate for that stellar Madison Square Garden security.
That's right.
I mean,
Spike Lee, Charles Oakley, and Patrick Ewing. Those are the three most beloved individuals that have stepped into Madison Square Garden since Walt Frazier, was playing.
Right.
I mean, it's just unbelievable. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Absolutely. Anyway, well, that brings us out of NBA, and we got a little baseball to talk about. Got a couple weeks left of spring training, and then opening day is 2 weeks from tomorrow, April 1st, April Fool's Day. Couple things I just want to run by you guys. We don't have to get into a ton of stats on baseball and everything else, but I don't know, Pete, I'm sure you probably watched a little bit more of it than Harry, you did. As far as the Mets go, this whole Luis Guillorme, J.D. Davis back and forth, there seems to be two camps. Did either of you see the Guillorme's 22 pitch at bat on Sunday?
I watched a replay of it.
Yeah. 22 pitch. He had a 22 pitch. He worked a walk out of a 22 pitch.
He got a walk out of it. Yeah.
He got a walk out of a 22 pitch at bat, and it was like, I think he was 0-2 at one point. He worked a 22 pitch walk from an 0-2 count. So
which almost always seems to be the outcome.
Right.
Once you get over like 15 or 16 pitches, it almost always seems to end up a walk.
Walk, yeah. Right.
Or maybe that's the ones you don't necessarily remember. Occasionally there's a hit you might remember, but
it's one of the longest Major League Baseball plate appearances ever. Was his 22 pitch at bat on Sunday, but there's been since and before that, and it's been going on for a couple of weeks now because everybody, J.D. Davis is penciled in as third baseman, starting third baseman, but his defense is a question. His bat's certainly not, but his defense is a question. And Guillorme's defense he's probably one of the best defenders that can play on the field, next to Lindor or anybody else. But his bat isn't, J.D. Davis's. So
no, it is not.
But I mean, it is getting better, has been, and it will. I will admit, Guillorme only has one home run in his career, and I was actually at Citi Field when he hit it. So, but in any event, the question is, it's going back and forth, and the camps are fighting each other basically. It's amazing to watch this on all the groups and on social media, but on Facebook and that. But the question is J.D. Davis's defense worse than Luis Guillorme's offense? What's the bigger Achilles heel, if you will? So
that's a good question.
It's something to think about. You don't have to answer it right now. It could be rhetorical. Who really knows? Last year. Now, granted, it was a COVID shortened year, but the Guillorme's batting average was 333. And J.D. Davis's was 247. Now, granted, J.D. Davis had 3 times the amount of at-bats, but he didn't have 3 times the amount of hits. So, Guillorme obviously needs time to play. And the one thing that I went and I looked at, actually, was I looked at J.D. Davis's history. Before he got to the Mets. His first year with the Mets was 2019.
Right.
Before that, he was on Houston for 2 or 3 years. And Houston, he was basically Luis Guillorme in Houston. He didn't have that many at bats. He was a late inning replacement, or just when you wanted to move somebody around or whatever, and he didn't have that many at bats. Can't the same thing be said for Guillorme? I mean, yeah, he doesn't have that many hits. He doesn't have that many runs. He doesn't have that many RBIs, but he hasn't had that much playing time. If you give him that much, So, look, I'm not saying that I want Guillorme to start over Davis. I'm just thinking that maybe, they might want to think about a platoon situation to some degree because, the defense that Guillorme is going to bring to the team, I think, with all the other bats that they have, if they line it up correctly, Davis's defense might actually cost them more runs than Guillorme's offense will.
Yeah, what is the difference in the offense with Davis compared to the defense with Guillorme, considering they do have some bats? And let's face it, this is a team that we're looking at what could be a very high quality pitching staff.
Sure.
We've got,
it's in the top. Everybody's been projecting it as top 5 pitching staffs in the league.
But you can't strike out everybody.
In the league, in all of Major League Baseball, actually.
Yeah, you can't strike out everybody.
No,
you've got some great pitchers get great defense behind them, and that helps them. Right. They don't do it by themselves. I think I would be. I mean, if you had to choose one guy to be the starter, right, I would choose Guillorme. Put good defense out there and keep runs from scoring, and then you don't need Davis to hit so many home runs.
Right.
I think you're going to have enough offense without him. You look at it the other way around. Yes, your good pitching is going to keep your runs against down, but Davis is not exactly a 300-plus hitter,
right,
who hits a lot of home runs, right? He's a 2. What's his career average? I don't know.
I got it.
260 something. Maybe it's a little better than that, but he's not a. I don't know if he's as a good. He's got power, but I don't. What are the numbers?
Pull it up right here. What the hell is it?
I don't know if he's a good enough hitter to justify what is, pretty lousy defense.
It's got to be. Well, here's one thing. I will tell you this, though. Here's one thing that I actually saw that was actually a little intriguing. If you have somebody suggested that if they have a pitcher on the mound that's a predominantly fly ball pitcher,
then you put Davis in.
Start Davis at third. If you have somebody that's predominantly a ground ball pitcher, start Guillorme. And do it like that. And then, in that respect, it's platooning anyway, right? So that's what you're basically looking at.
I guess you could. I guess you could do it that way.
It's going to be touch and go or whatever, but
it's a slow sports week, folks.
It is. So, in any event, we'll get back to more of that. But let's switch over to some Yankee stuff for Harry, because I know you want to sign off early, don't you?
I do.
You do. So why don't we talk about some Yankees with you right now?
Their pitching looks good. Can't believe I'm saying that, but it does. And
I was just going to say.
And I think one of my favorite Yankees might not have a roster spot in Mike Tauchman, who, if the Mets need an outfielder, I know he's not. He'll be probably sent down to the minors. But the Mike Ford and Mike Tauchman could both not be on the Yankees 40-man roster in a couple days. I think Montgomery and Herman are looking good, and if the Yankees, they're not scoring a lot of runs, which is typical of last year,
right?
But their pitching looks pretty good. I understand it's preseason, and I understand they're not playing the best of the best, but it's so far so good. So far so good.
Herman has had 4 innings pitched yesterday, and he gave up 3 hits with no runs and 6 strikeouts. He's pitched 9 scoreless innings in 3 starts so far.
Well, look at Montgomery. Jordan Montgomery last night. What was it 5 innings plus?
Five and a quarter. Third, rather.
5 1/4. Yeah, he pitched 5 1/4. He had
two strikes and one ball.
75% of an out.
Dick.
Corrected
myself before you said it. In the ass.
By the way, Davis is 268 with 33 home runs and 765 at bats.
268.
I like Davis, actually.
I like JD Davis, too. Don't get me wrong. I just worry about balls getting, line drives getting,
knocked down, ricocheting off his glove.
That's what she said.
Bouncing into underneath the tarp.
And then the ones that he does come up with, he jumps up and fires the ball over to first base to Pete Alonso, and it goes 10 feet wide of him, Mm-hmm. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about with him.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm not worried about him hitting home runs. I'm not worried about him driving in runs.
I think you got to keep them both. And like I said, he might be one of those guys who, he certainly would be good DH.
Yeah. You know what? That's the problem. This is the point now. Now, Met fans, I've been a proponent of no DH. I don't want a DH in the National League and everything else.
Now you guys got a lot of DHs.
The way the Mets are set right now, why isn't the DH here this year?
Yeah, you guys got a lot of DHs.
Look, it's coming. It's coming. Why not start it?
I'm going to say this. I know we want to wrap early, so I won't get into all of it. But
you and I don't have to wrap early, so
yeah, that's true. You and I can talk. I am now 100% for the universal DH. I have pondered this long and hard and have changed my mind.
When you say universal DH, it sounds like it's some sort of robot. It's like Alexa to play.
When they play on the moon, there should be
a batter for every team.
Yeah, or it's the same guy. He has to play at every.
I think it should be the same guy for both teams. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
one guy bats, and then you have
the best of your bench players, and he's the DH.
Or somebody you have to randomly pick somebody from the crowd.
There you go.
Or actually, you get to pick somebody from the other team. To be your DH.
Or you get to pick the other team's DH.
You get to send somebody there. That's even a better idea.
There you go.
Yeah. No, I am 100%. I think it should be league wide, and they should start it.
I agree
this year. Absolutely.
Now, here's a question that I wanted to ask you guys because I don't know much about this. I just read about it the other day. Is that they're thinking about getting rid of the shift?
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. There's 2 rule changes that are proposed. One of them is getting rid of the shift restrictions. They don't want anybody going.
I like that. I can't stand that damn shift.
Yeah, they don't want that.
And if you're a pro baseball player and somebody says we're going to leave this entire left side of the infield open for you,
why are you not hitting there?
I mean, imagine Rod Carew would have hit 750.
Well, that's the problem with the shift.
That low.
The problem is not with the shift. The problem is that these hitters refuse to adjust to it and take easy hits. And so
if you've noticed, too, a lot of these teams that are shifting on certain batters, right, they're not just shifting on it because that's where they hit the ball. But it's because that's where they hit the ball. Even if we're not playing on the whole left side of the field, they're not going to hit over there. They're going to hit over here. So
no one is making that adjustment. The hitting to the opposite field in some cases is an absolute dead art, and it's really too bad because it could make for some very interesting plays.
Right, absolutely.
I don't know. Maybe we need a couple more years, but you would think by now these guys would be coming around and would be going to the whole left side is open. Hit it,
bunt it. Yeah. Just do something.
Right. Lay down a bunt up the third base line when everybody's on the first base side.
Mickey Rivers would have just slapped. He would have had 27,000 singles, all dribbling barely past. Past the bag.
Right. 4 of them would have gone actually past the bag. The others would have rolled up and
he would have turned half of them into doubles.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's just it's so bizarre to watch. Like when you're at the game. And you see it, it's because you don't necessarily see all of it on television.
Right.
But when you're at the game watching it, it looks like something's wrong.
Right.
And still these guys cannot hit.
It looks like a trick play from some Little League baseball movie.
Right.
Exactly. I remember when when a guy used to hit up the middle, when you used to squeeze the shortstop and the second baseman, and that was considered, crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then your third baseman and the first baseman would rotate over.
Right, you'd have the wheel, right, where everybody would rotate. I mean, that was like, now it's just
just
like
it's
slant over.
It's like the home run derby, when everybody gathers in one spot to try to catch the balls. That's what it looks like.
That's funny. That's actually pretty funny.
Only in the infield.
Well, let me throw this one at you too. There's another proposed rule change too.
Yeah.
And they're gonna, if they do it, they're gonna start it in the minors and work its way up. They want to make the bases bigger. You know why? You know why they want to make the bases bigger?
Because guys getting hit.
They want more steals. They want more steals. Well, no. That's what they're saying. But they want more steals. They want to make the play on the field interesting.
How much bigger are you going to make the base? Is the base going to become the size of Rhode Island?
7 feet.
That's
you could just jump onto it and bounce. No,
so it's only going to be bigger on one side.
A few inches.
It's only going to be bigger on the infield side.
It'll be
towards first base.
Right.
It'll be asymmetrical.
Towards the previous base. That side will be 6 inches wider.
Rectangular bases.
Exactly. Now, what they're saying is, they want to make it so that it's more for that for the steals because, and the biggest thing is they're trying to do with all of this crap is they're trying to figure out anything and everything to try and attract a younger audience. They want those younger kids to stop playing Call of Duty and watch a baseball game. And they want baseball games to be an hour and 15 minutes long, but yet they're going to make the bases bigger so everybody can steal. It just doesn't make any sense.
I don't want any of that.
Right.
Yeah.
The game primarily hasn't changed forever. There's been very, very, very minor changes throughout the course of history, and everybody's loved the game the way they do. If there's a bunch of kids out there that don't want to watch the game the way it is now, making minor adjustments to it is not going to get them to watch it.
Well, if you want to see more small ball or moving around the bases, get rid of the shift.
Right.
And B, you might see a little bit more swallow. But, I mean, the game has become strikeouts and home runs.
Right.
And it would be nice if that changed, but who knows?
Who knows?
It's it just is what it is.
Well,
I don't know.
Bringing the DH isn't going to change that either.
No, not at all. It's gonna keep a bunch of old home run hitters around, and make the National League's ERA go up.
Although, again, I'm all for it.
Right. I'm all for it too, just because, again, guys can't hit to the opposite field. I mean, these pitchers cannot. Back in the day, pitchers were not great hitters. Nowadays, sometimes it's just like, whoa, this is dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is, look, pitchers don't throw late into games that much, right? They don't go 3 times through the lineup. So strategy,
they're getting pulled once they get to the third time.
Right. It's rid of all those multiple changes where you're sacrificing in the National League, where you're sacrificing a player to get the pitcher out of there.
Or having to make the decision like in the 7th inning.
Right.
My guy's really rolling. But we really could use a couple of runs. Do I want to leave him in or hit or whatever? Right. That's all done. There's no need for that. That strategy's out.
The double switch, the one player coming in, pitching 2 pitches, and then coming back, and then all of a sudden the lineup card looks like a Chinese algebra.
And that can't change anymore anyway because they took the power of being able to face one batter out too. They got to face 3 batters now.
Right. But even those relievers you bring in, they don't last more than an inning most of the time. They're out anyway.
Right.
Generally speaking, and then you bring in the next guy.
I don't agree with the you have to face 3 batters rule. I think that's a terrible rule as well.
I think it's a terrible
rule.
I think that's a terrible rule.
I think, especially for teams that have built themselves on having a deep bullpen, it's just ridiculous.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised to find out that Rob Manfred put that rule in there just for this particular thing that we're talking about here. That's out of the water. All those strategies and everything else, it's out of the water, so you might as well go with the DH. So his end game was to get the DH everywhere. So he put that rule in there.
I don't like that. And what does facing 3 batters mean?
Right.
That's
Well, the original talk was if you're going to make a change, then they're going to go to commercial. He's got to warm up. Then you bring in somebody else after 1 batter. He's going to do the same thing. So it's extending the game. We want the game to be compact. We want it to be shorter so we can get the kids to watch it. Again, stop. If they're going to watch the baseball game, they're going to watch the baseball game. If they're not going to watch it, they're not going to watch it.
Last time I checked, there was baseball stadiums when we could fill them were filled.
Right.
And people were watching.
Right.
I don't think you had any problem getting young kids to go watch at Yankee Stadium or Shea Stadium or Chavez Ravine. Hell, even here in Colorado, there's always people at the fans, so there's always young kids there. Stop pandering and making young kids out, telling them what they are.
Right.
There's plenty of young kids who understand how to play baseball and how to watch a whole game.
I don't understand it either, because the bottom line is, you go to any municipality, you go to any local rec leagues and everything else. Do they not have kids coming out and playing ball? No, they're all playing ball. They're all playing baseball. There's a bunch of kids that are playing baseball, and there's a bunch of kids that are not. Yeah. So the bunch of kids that are playing baseball are going to watch the game. The ones that aren't.
But here's what I would say.
Regardless of how you change it.
Here's what I would say has done more damage as far as kids not watching games or not becoming interested or more interested in games than the game not changing. Stop putting the fucking World Series on at 8:00 every night. Put games on during the day. Let's have, you know what I mean, on a regular basis here. Let's allow these kids to watch the game and not have to stay up until 11:00. Let's gear it towards the fans and gear it towards the young fans and not towards the ratings.
I don't know. There was always a balance of day games and night games. I stayed up till 11:00, hiding, listening to my transistor radio.
Right.
I mean, it's hard because.
Right, but you're a hardcore fan. If you're trying,
but I was as a kid too. But what I'm saying is that most baseball games start at 7:30.
Yeah, so you get to the playoffs, and then it's 8, and then it's 8:20.
Well, because they're trying to find the balance. Like,
I know they're trying to balance.
It hurts the kid on the East Coast, but the kid on the West Coast is catching the end of the game.
Right.
Because he's just got back from practice or tuba practice or something.
But my point is, instead of being in prime time and having all of the people on the West Coast who want to watch it conveniently, and the people on the East Coast suffering for those 3 games or those 4 games.
But to your point, I will play devil's advocate, is that last year, with the crazy playoff scenario that we had, I felt like all day long there was playoff baseball on. I felt like there was more playoff baseball than Mexican telenovelas on during the day last year. It was fantastic, especially because I worked from home and I could, look over and watch the Braves and it was great too, because it would have been
so great if you were in an office all day. All we need is a pandemic to make the baseball.
People don't think people watch it at their office; they watch it online. That's the other thing, is you're talking about people don't watch things on television anymore.
They bring their iPads, they set them up on their desk.
It's not quite the same experience, though.
No, I get
you. I agree with you. It did seem like there was always something going on, but that's not the norm, though. It's
not.
I think a couple of day games would be okay. But I mean, when I think of World Series, when was the last time there was you remember a daytime World Series game? Maybe a daytime pennant game, maybe a
daytime pennant games.
Daytime, but even the League Championship Series and the World Series, I can't remember the last time there was a daytime World Series game. I can't.
I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah,
and we've been watching this. So
you're supposed to play a Wednesday 2:00 East Coast. Or baseball.
I think. Let's see. When did the Mets last win their World Series?
86.
What year was that? It was 86. I'm pretty sure there were a couple of day games in 86.
I don't think so.
I think there were.
I know there were.
There were day games in 69.
I know there was in the League Series, because I remember the Angels that year against the Red Sox. I remember that game where name had a meltdown, was a day game.
You're absolutely right. There were day games,
and even in the 90s and early 2000s, in the League Series and in the Championship Series, always a couple day games, always. But they're usually twilight kind of games, because you had multiple games going on. I remember when the Yankees played the Twins for every year there was always 2 or 3 day games. There were always a 2:00 start. But the World Series, no, always at night. And I think it's been that way forever. I mean, it's going back to the 70s. Do you remember? I mean, Yankees Dodgers. I can't remember any of those games being a day game. Can you?
You know what? I just looked at this. The last time a World Series game was played in the afternoon overall, and it was when it was a weekday afternoon, was the 87 World Series when Minnesota won. It was played indoors, but it was during the day.
I just wanted to make sure they got the best daylight.
Right. It started at 3 p.m. It was also Saturday, though.
Okay.
In the 1978 World Series had many 5:30 p.m. starts on weekdays. These are all Eastern times.
And I bet they started at 3 on that Saturday because there was something else going on later in the day,
At
sports
night,
wise,
or something like that. Yeah.
It's probably a football game.
So, if you're the last time there was a super early weekday during the day afternoon game for the World Series was on a Friday. It was a 1 p.m. start. It was Game 5 of the '72 World Series.
I think you'd see ratings dive bomb if they did that. But I mean, you can. I mean, look, there's plenty of people around the world, around the country. I mean, who got into, to Pete's point, that got into baseball because they all had the Chicago station on their cable network.
Sure.
Back in the day when the cable finally came into everybody's house, and everybody sat there watching the Cubs. Mm-hmm. So I mean, yeah, I think having more day games is great, and there's tons of day games during the regular season.
I love watching the baseball game during the day. Please, especially in any event.
Out here, it's as long as I can get under cover. If I have to sit in the sun, then it's just like, oof. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, it's hot. It gets hot here.
So you want to sit on the third base side?
If it's that first base or right field line at Coors Field when it's a 6 o'clock start, the first 4 innings are brutal.
You bring a change of T-shirt with you.
I just bring my parasol.
That's all.
Makes everybody behind me really happy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I think the earlier start would be good. And I also think that you have to kind of go back to it's like, if it's 2 East Coast teams, then you have to tailor towards an East Coast schedule. If it's an East and West Coast team, then you got to find that happy medium.
You got to find a happy medium. Yeah.
And, late night, New York City dictates everything, and late night is where the ratings are at.
Gotcha. We could debate this forever because I just think that the direction that Manfred is taking these changes every year is just I don't even know.
And can we leave it alone for 1 or 2 years so I at least know what's going on? I can't keep up. I just can't keep up.
It's ridiculous. Speaking of changing things, Cleveland, we all know obviously they're going to change their name from the Indians. I saw 2 online. Well, I'm just curious what your opinion is. 2 possible changes for the Cleveland Indians. Changing the name to the Spiders, the Cleveland Spiders.
That sounds horrible.
All right. And
what would be the connection for the Spiders?
I don't know. I think there
used to be a team. I think there used to be a team called Cleveland Spiders.
That would make sense.
And then there's also one called the other idea is the Municipals. The Cleveland Municipals.
Ooh, that is
Spiders sounds really good.
In the heart, huh?
The Cleveland Municipal Spiders. There you go.
Best of both worlds. Yeah.
Why the hell not? I think they should just call them the Cuyahogas.
I think they should just call them the Cleveland Steamers.
I think they should go with the light browns.
Stop.
The Cleveland Steamers.
I mean, you think of steamships and all that. I like it. True. I mean, I'm sure there's an Urban Dictionary entry for a Cleveland steamer.
Are you kidding me? Of course it is.
But I think Tenacious D sang about that, actually.
I think so.
But there wasn't the Cleveland steamer. Yeah, there was also
don't go there.
There was also a vacuum or something that was actually I remember back in the day. Anyway,
I think she was a famous dancer. Actually,
there's the
Matilda, the Cleveland Steamer.
The Cleveland Steamer.
She was available for private shows.
I just looked up what a Cleveland Steamer is. Now I am even more intent on that. Cleveland, do it.
The Cleveland Steamer. I want to know what. I want to know what you think the logo should be.
I'll draw one up. I'll have it for next week. It'll definitely be somebody stealing a base.
There you go.
They'll be getting something off their chest.
Exactly.
I think we solved it. Cleveland Steamers.
What a shitty thing to talk about.
There is a Cleveland Steamers baseball team. The Cleveland Steamers are a professional baseball team based in Cleveland.
Oh, that's
they are on
a professional baseball team.
The Cleveland. Oh no! Wait, the Cleveland Steamers.
Anything?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if the Cleveland Steamers are a professional baseball team based in Cleveland, Ohio. Oh no, this can't be real.
This can't.
Yeah, this is a
is that on the
this
onion?
is a thing. You should see the logo. It's fantastic. It's kind of
Just send it to us.
Just think about the Milwaukee Brewers logo with what Johnny always posts on Facebook in the middle.
You might want to get
in the middle of the
a copy of that logo. You might want to get a copy of that logo and start using it for your football posts.
Well, they've produced some of baseball's greatest players, most notably being Dirty Sanchez, Lucky Pierre, Rusty Trombone, and baseball's first female professional player, Pearl Necklace.
Oh God, that's a total joke. Rusty Trombone. Oh my God! Oh, we've gone so far off base with this. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think I like something tying into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So the Cleveland Rockers, and you got the song Cleveland Rock. I kind of like the Cleveland Rockers, to be honest with you. I think that would be a cool thing. That how can you be mad if they're called the Cleveland Rockers? I mean,
I don't know.
And it would be a cool. You could do
like geologists.
You could do so many cool things with the logo, and it's hip, and it's about rock and roll, and it's
a lot of people aren't happy with. A lot of people aren't happy with the Hall of Fame, though, because they're letting in acts they consider not rock and roll. And
come on,
whatever.
I'm just telling you this.
I mean, yeah, but
all right, then it's the Cleveland. Then it's the Cleveland Steamers.
What about the Cuyahogas? It's the river in Cleveland.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, how about the Cleveland
Burners?
River,
the Cuyahoga River.
The Cleveland River Fires.
The Cuyahoga
How
River
about
burns.
that?
So the Cuyahoga
catch on fire one year because there was so much pollution in it.
There's so much pollution in it. It burned.
There you go.
I'm going with the Rockers.
Yeah. Like the Rockers, Cuyahogas, the Burners. I wouldn't mind the Burners.
I would go with the Light Browns. Cleveland Light Browns.
That's
Cleveland Light Browns. As opposed to
why not?
No.
Cleveland Magentas.
No, not going there. Not going there. Not going there. Not going there.
Anyway,
the Cleveland Beiges.
The Cleveland Beiges. The Cleveland. There you go. The Cleveland. Never mind. That's fine.
Yeah,
we'll leave it alone there. Okay.
Arsenio Hall is from Cleveland. They could be the Cleveland Arsenios.
And Cleveland Halls.
The Cleveland Halls.
Cleveland Halls.
Cleveland Hall sounds like a song and dance band from the 20s.
Yeah.
I'm Cleveland Hall, and I'm here to entertain you. I'm going to tap and sing.
The Cleveland Halls. There you go.
Yeah.
And everyone gets a Cleveland Steamer who wants one.
Yeah.
Cleveland Steamers. I mean.
Well, I look at it this way. I got about 6 openings in the last 10 minutes. So.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, there's some other there's some other what's that stuff? Oh, football to talk about. But you want to leave, don't you? You got stuff you got to get done.
I got 4 minutes. Hurry up.
You got 4 minutes.
All right, let me ask you this, guys. Since you're both Giant fans, we got 4 minutes. Do you want Galloway? Amongst the free agent wide receivers out there, who do you want on the Giants?
Kenny Galloway.
You want Kenny Galladay, not Galloway. Galladay. You want Juju?
Galloway was already on.
I think Juju Smith-Schuster, without a doubt.
I would take Juju.
Or isn't what's his name? Sammy Watkins also available?
Don't know. You got Will Fuller from the Texans, Curtis Samuel from the Panthers.
I'll take Sammy Watkins.
I'll take Juju. I'll take Will Fuller.
Galladay's
not a bad choice, but
they call him Megatron Jr.
Of the available wide receivers, I'll take Deshaun Watson.
Of the available wide receivers, I'll take Russell Wilson. Thank you.
That might be the only way he gets out of Houston in this next season. Just change his position.
Well, he's having some.
I'm going to play, but I'm not a quarterback. He's
having some issues with his massage therapist.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting to see how much of that is.
Oh, jeez.
Isn't this the same thing that Antonio Brown went through?
Same thing. Yep, exactly. Is it the same woman?
It could be. Although I heard today that somebody said the lawyer, Busby, lives or used to live across the street from the McNairs.
Interesting.
So they're wondering whether this was but it's hard to, I mean, that guy, he's super, super rich, Busby. He's made his money. He won a huge settlement against BP, in fact.
Right.
So I don't know if he still lives there anymore, but apparently he did in the past. But his house got robbed and like $20 million worth of stuff was stolen. It's crazy how rich this guy is. But you wouldn't think a guy like that would put his reputation on the line, or at least his career on the line, by fabricating a story. So there would have to be some text or something
There has to be something to it.
To substantiate it. But everybody goes, not Deshaun Watson. Forget it. This is BS.
Well, in more exciting things than Massage Gate, 49ers investing big in offensive linemen. What does that tell you?
Yeah.
That tells me that somebody's coming there to be quarterback for the 49ers.
Yeah, Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold?
I hope not. Yeah.
Going back to Cali.
No, I mean, look, they just made what's his name the richest offensive lineman in the history of the NFL, and
wasn't that Nate Solder before?
Well, yeah, well, no, I don't think the Giants did that, but I just can't see that being the case if they're going to hang on to Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting.
It's
why is everybody down on Garoppolo so much?
All things that
because he sucks.
Yeah, all things that I thought were going to happen and moves that were going to be made, especially this week. Since free agency started and everything else, it's been odd. It really has been. A couple things like the Giants. Just to sum that up, they did give Leonard Williams his contract. He's got a 3-year, $63 million deal.
$63 million.
$63 million, $21 million a year. I don't know how it works out though. $45 million of it's guaranteed, but they were going to take, with the franchise tag, they were going to take a $19.5 million hit to the cap. Now with this new deal, they're only getting $11 million hit to the cap. So they freed up $8.5 million so they can go sign other people. So they did pick up Devontae Booker, the running back from the Raiders, who had I
like that.
Yeah. But he's 1 year removed from an ACL. So now you get two running backs that are coming off of ACL injuries.
Well, it's like that text I sent you guys. He's always searching the bargain bin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's that's what I was going to bring up. This whole thing with Steve Smith. It's they pick up John Ross. I mean, whatever. He played he had 2 receptions for 17 yards last year. That was his entire season last year, John Ross, with the Bengals. 2 receptions for 17 yards, average. And they picked him up. And they didn't even disclose. I tried to look for it. They didn't even disclose how much they paid him. It's got to be like the league minimum or whatever that is. But I don't think Steve Smith is too far off of this. Why every other team is renegotiating contracts and moving and restructuring things so they can free up some of this cap room, especially this year with the cap taking a $10 million hit. And they're signing other people. I mean, yeah, a lot of the teams that have a ton of cap room, obviously, were the ones that are winning. Obviously, Belichick spent so far this offseason. Belichick spent $146 million over the last 10 years combined. He didn't even spend.
Well, he had a punch card and he got a free wide receiver.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So he was able to cash in on that.
Getting back to the Giants though.
But
it's always been their MO to draft receivers and not renew their contracts. They did it once with Odell Beckham Jr. It bit him in the ass, and so Well,
he did it, and then he traded him anyway after the season. It was like he was reluctant to do it. But
the difference is that they were always able to draft really good receivers, and that's where it's dropped.
So it didn't matter. Everybody else went by the wayside, and they just had the next one in the chain coming through.
Yeah, think about it. I mean, that's been their history.
And now, there's a pretty decent crop of wide receivers in this upcoming draft. So if you're going to draft guys that you hope are going to, turn into at least very, good to very good players, this is a good year to do it at the wide receiver position.
I mean, I've never seen more mock drafts in my life. Everybody has a mock draft. It's a new thing to do. And it's, who knows? I'm sure the worst case scenario, the worst mock draft selection, the Giants will somehow go worse than that. I just picture some obscure, offensive lineman who's going to turn into a tight end, and from
Eric Flowers' cousin is coming out this year,
and they're going to pick him.
His name's Johnny Weeds.
Johnny Weeds. Eric Flowers' cousin Johnny Weeds is coming out this year. So that's your first rounder right there. On a Jets note, they signed Corey Davis. So
Jets have done okay.
You got a good receiver there.
Not so sure about the other Davis.
Got a couple of decent receivers with Mims, and then you got Crowder over the middle. Maybe you got a decent. You got decent.
Listen, you got Mims receivers. And you got Davis. Those are big guys. You're going to need big corners to kind of cover those guys. You still got Crowder over the middle, so you line up Crowder in the slot, and and that's where Crowder kind of belongs, right?
Right, of course.
He really is not certainly not a number one or a number. He's really a number 3 guy.
Yeah. But they picked up an edge rusher, Carl Lawson.
Yep,
3 years,
that's a pretty good pickup for them. Yeah,
he had 36 tackles last year, 5.5 sacks, 32 quarterback hurries, and he was with the Bengals. He picked him up with the Bengals. But you know what? I got to ask you. We've talked about this before, and we've said it over and over and over again. Is Darnold staying or is Darnold going? Because
nobody knows.
But there's been moves made.
Either way, they're drafting. They're not going to get Deshaun Watson. They're drafting a quarterback, and if somebody wants Darnold and the Jets can get anything for him, he's gone.
Right.
That's my take. I don't think he's I think the Jets have moved on from him being the quarterback.
I don't think he is either. I think Robert Saleh came in here and said, "Hey, you know what? I can get Zach Wilson from Brigham Young. Yeah, that's who I want. I want to bring him in." But you know what? I mean, there is one head coach in this league that really believes in Sam Darnold, and it's Pete Carroll, according to these reports.
But I mean, for the Jets to look, I honestly, I don't think Russell Wilson's going anywhere.
Right.
I think this is all a ploy for Wilson to get more help.
Get more help and a little bit more say-so, I think, in all of that. In the last couple of days, Seattle's backtracked a little bit. They've said, hey, you know what? Not right now. We're not interested right now.
Well, and the list of teams that supposedly Wilson would be open to, which he has never said this, but the teams that he's supposedly open to make no sense. And by the way, 2 of them have already signed quarterbacks in the last 2
years. Yeah, the doors are closing for everybody.
It doesn't make any sense. Look,
by the way, for the Jets, I tend to think Bradford is.
You're not a Bradford.
Brad, folks. When Pete says Bradford, he means Darnold. Just to let you know.
I know. I think it's going to be Deshaun Watson or Sam Darnold Bradford for the Jets. I think if they can't get Watson, then Sam Darnold Bradford is their man.
Look, speaking of Deshaun Watson, there is a lot. I mean, this sports talk radio in Denver is just Deshaun Watson nonstop. Deshaun Watson nonstop. And there's somewhat legitimate reports coming out of, and ABC News and NBC News and other legitimate sources that say it's a possibility.
You know what? I don't see why it wouldn't be a possibility.
But why, if you're Deshaun Watson, would you want to come to the Broncos? People in Denver are so. It immediately makes them a Super Bowl contender. Really?
No. Not with that other team in your division.
Well, and not with the talent the Broncos are really a mess right now.
But you know what? You go out and get some talent, and all of a sudden things start to turn around. But still, you have the Chiefs in your division.
Right.
Why would he want to do that to himself?
And the Chargers and the Raiders.
Exactly. You get
every other team is on the way up, with the exception.
I was speaking to a Miami Dolphins fan today, and he is convinced. He's convinced that, and he's just saying from what he's been listening to, convinced, like reading between the lines or whatever he's doing, but he's convinced that Deshaun Watson is going to Miami.
Well, and Miami's definitely up there, but the reason why I think Deshaun Watson supposedly is open to going to the Broncos, and I think the Broncos are willing to give up the most for him, and that's where I think Houston comes into play, because it's not really up to Deshaun Watson.
Right, it's up to Houston.
It's up to Houston, and the Broncos are willing to cash in their chips to get Deshaun Watson. I think they should. I think anybody should, and I think the Broncos have enough talent where they can, they have enough depth and enough talent to make it work, at least maybe this year, and then go after a few free agents. Look, it would change this team. It would turn this team around immediately. I just don't think that with everything else, the way that they've gone with the head coaching and GMs and everything else, it's all so conservative and so not Deshaun Watson. What would Deshaun? I don't get it. But if the Broncos are willing to cash in the future for him, and they're offering way more than everybody else is offering, that might be where he lands.
Might be. Hey, you know what? What do you think about Ryan Fitzpatrick going to Washington?
Yeah, I would. I wanted to see him come here to Denver, but
I thought that would have been good.
If he can get traded 3 more times during the year, then he can make it to almost every team by the time he retires.
Well, he's up to 9 teams right now in the.
Look, he's a fine stand-in, but he's not the answer for any team.
Right.
We like him, but if you look at his career stats, and
I think he's an upgrade for the Redskins, and I think it puts them. I think it levels the playing field between them and Dallas in the NFC East.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's the second.
You got to think he's better.
He's the second best quarterback in the NFC East.
Yeah.
You got to think he's better than what's the kid's name?
Julian Love. Yeah. Julian Lowe. What is it? Julian something.
Julian Lennon. He's definitely better than Julian.
No, on Washington. Heineken.
Oh, Washington. Oh, Heineken.
Heineken or who's the other guy? Kyle Allen, I think.
He's a low and brow.
Than either one of those guys, but he's not going to be leading anybody to the
Julian Lennon
Super Bowl. Julian Lennon he's definitely better than Julian Lennon.
I mean, he was pretty good out of the shotgun. You never know.
Yeah.
I am going to sign off and say goodbye and good night, and let you guys delve deeper into what the Jets should do on their third string tight ends. But
they do. I've got a couple of choices.
They do. They do indeed. I got to run.
All right. Well, happy birthday, Harry.
Thank you very much.
Enjoy the night out in Denver if that's indeed what you're doing. And,
I'm not going very far, but I'm doing something. So
enjoy a 6-pack in the laundry room.
Hey. That spin cycle is fun.
Spin cycle is fun. Just be careful. Are you washing your Cleveland Steamer shirt tonight, or are you? Or it's got a couple more days in it.
There's no shirt. All right. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Anyway, you know what? I mean, I think I don't even know what to say anymore. Jets made a lot of good moves. They could have made more, and more to come. I think they're going to do good in the draft. I think Salah's going to turn it around a little bit, and I think they're going to compete. The Giants. Look, I don't know.
Well, whatever.
I don't know what.
Gettleman is Gettleman.
Did you read the article that Harry sent us?
No, I didn't have a chance to read it.
Steve Smith, former wide receiver for Carolina.
Yeah. Well, he's one of the old-time greats.
Yeah, went off, eviscerated Gettleman in a rant.
Probably he deserves it, doesn't he?
Yeah, he says he goes. A couple of his quotes were, "You don't want a playmaker, you want cheap." He wants all the credit, and that's why he doesn't have an alpha wide receiver on his roster, and he shops at the pick and save aisle. And
nice.
those were Steve Smith's quotes.
Yeah, and he's never been shy, Steve Smith.
No, not at all. No. And then he said he went off on NFL Network on Tuesday in the context of New York's bargain signing of former Bengals first-round pick John Ross. They going down. This is a quote. They going down in this pick and save aisle, which is about 15 and below. Steve Smith said, "Whoa, number 24 on the list, John Ross." Again, they don't want an alpha. That's what he said. That was his quote. But I don't disagree with him. I got to be honest with you. I feel bad for Daniel Jones. Hopefully, you know what? Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, I think are decent receivers. And let's hope they can do something with it. But I do have to say that beyond receivers and any other running back signings like Devontae Booker or what have you, shoring up the defense, and putting the damn offensive line in front of.
Yeah,
it's number one. That's got to be number one. So if he accomplishes that, and the only wide receiver signing is John Ross. Is that his name? Was it John Ross? Yeah. Then fine. Then fine. If you got a brick wall in front of somehow, or some form or facet of a brick wall in front of Daniel Jones, and keep in mind Saquon Barkley too. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Saquon Barkley's been getting injured, but he's been getting injured because he's got nobody in front of him. He's trying to do everything himself. You know, if he had blockers and he was able to do what he needed to do, like any other team, like if he was on any other team that actually had an offensive line in front of him, he may not be injured. As often as he's been. So I feel bad for him. I feel bad for Daniel Jones. Let's just hope they get it right with the offensive line. Let's hope that goes there. But
I think that's another category that this draft has some decent picks in is offensive line.
Yeah,
and I think that's a place the Jets are going to go to look for offensive line.
Yeah,
well, both these teams have to improve their offensive line.
Right.
And who are the two guys that are Thuney and Lindsley or Lindsley? I think
Lindsley. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Kind of like two veterans that free agents, I should say, that maybe teams were looking at, and obviously neither the Jets or the Giants went after them. So you have. I think the Jets. I think if they don't get Deshaun Watson, that's a deal you have to make. If Houston will make that deal, but I think they're going to be fine with Sam Bradford as their quarterback if they don't get Watson. They may draft one of those guys with the number 2 pick. They may not. I mean, here's the thing about I can't keep their name straight. Who's BYU? Wilson.
Well, Zach Wilson is
Wilson. Yeah. Here's the question about Zach Wilson. And on the negative side, you can sort of look at BYU and you go, well, who the hell did they play?
Right.
But then you look at his numbers, and the flip side of that is, but look at the numbers he had and who was he playing with?
Right.
I don't hear any BYU receivers that are going to be anywhere close, maybe to even the first round of the draft.
Right.
Let alone amongst the top 5 or 6 or 10 receivers that you might take. So he's doing a lot with a bunch of guys who probably aren't going to play in the NFL.
Right.
Maybe out of some practice squads or something like that.
Mm-hmm. But
then again, you could say, he's putting up impressive numbers against who? Nobody. Right. Not anybody tough. So that's kind of, look, everybody who's talking about this, professionally at least, is looking for pros and cons, right? They're looking for what's good about Wilson, and they're looking about, well, how, where can we dig in and find something negative,
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what to do. I wouldn't have a problem with them not drafting a quarterback, but you've got to get, if you're gonna go with Bradford Darnold, or Darnold Bradford.
Darnold Bradford.
If you're gonna go with Darnold Bradford,
right? I
should just call him Sam. That way,
Sam. You're gonna go with Sam.
If you're gonna go with Sam, you got to give him protection.
Yeah,
and you got to find somebody to run the ball. It can't be the ancient one anymore. Did he actually retire officially or not yet?
You know what? That's a good question. I think he did, unless he wanted to play a couple more years so he can actually play with his son.
Maybe. Maybe. That might be. But, both these teams need to fix their offensive lines because your offense isn't going anywhere. Whether you have Saquon Barkley carrying the ball for you or what's his name?
Who they just signed or who they had?
No, on the Jets.
Who they just
the old
signed?
Man.
Oh, Frank Gore.
Frank Gore, there, thank you. Whether you got Barkley or Frank Gore carrying the ball, if you don't have an offensive line, neither one of them is going very far.
He's still on the Jets.
Still on the Jets, yeah.
It's 2020 through present. His roster status is active.
There we go.
He's still on the Jets. Yeah. So
if
he plays another couple of years, he can actually be on the same team with his son for a year. That would be interesting.
That would be sweet.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I have more confidence in the Jets brain trust than I do in the Giants brain trust.
With the brain trust being Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, not
versus Dave Gettleman.
Not Chris Johnson. No, you're not talking about that.
No.
All right.
Assuming it's going to go the way they said it's going to go.
Right.
Although Woody's coming back. And so, anything that was said and is supposedly going to happen could get thrown out the window.
Could get thrown right out the window, yeah.
He's the owner.
Right, exactly.
And he might go, yeah, that sounded good when you guys were talking about it, but I'm Woody Johnson and I own the team and you're going to get the guys that I want.
Right, exactly.
In which case you're going to have an unhappy GM and a very unhappy coach because I think that was not one of the draws for Robert Saleh to come here.
I don't think that's going to happen at this point, but we'll see.
I don't think it will either. I hope it doesn't.
We'll tell, yeah. But well, you know what? We'll see how it all shakes out, how it all plays out. Let's just hope that, like I said, if they can shore up with the places they need to, both teams, and any others. And I do, by the way, agree with. I tend to agree, leaning wise, with the gentleman I spoke with today on the whole Miami thing. I for some reason I got a feeling that Deshaun Watson's going to end up down in Miami.
I think that is, forget about Watson for Wilson. I don't see that happening.
Watson for Wilson? Oh, flip-flopping the teams?
No, I don't see that happening.
That's not happening.
I think if you look at, the Bears have Dalton. That doesn't mean that
the Bears
are not going to still look for a quarterback.
They're not married to starting Andy Dalton. I'm sorry.
That's a stopgap at best.
And don't they still have? Trubisky, right? He's still have Trubisky, and technically they still have Nick Foles too.
Yeah.
So were they going to have 4 quarterbacks on the roster?
Right, but if you look at the realistic places where Watson could go,
right,
and again, it really comes down to who's got the most.
Sure.
And I don't know what Denver has to give up, but it better be a lot if the Jets are all in and Denver's all in.
Right.
Because the Jets have got that number 2 and those number 1s. I think they have the best package as far as draft capital goes.
They have two number 1s over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
And this year it's 2 and 23. And who knows what it'll be next year, obviously, but
right.
But they have other picks to offer as well. So they're pretty well stocked with that. But I did hear one. I guess it was just I don't know if there was any word coming out that this is what they were looking at giving, or it was just something that was somebody speculating. But they were saying when they were talking about Chicago, Chicago was looking at giving their next 4 first-round picks.
That'd be interesting.
Giving Pete Carroll and the Seahawks their next 4 first-round picks, and more. Just starting there and going, whatever. I guess a couple of later rounders and maybe a player or 2 to be,
right, to be named later.
To be named later, yeah.
But see, the thing about Miami though is I don't know what their pick situation is, but they have probably amongst all these teams something that Houston might really want, at least potentially, in a quarterback that could be their starter.
Right.
And then they wouldn't have to use those high picks on a rookie.
Right.
And Tua's only in his second year, right?
He'll be going in his second. This was his rookie season this past season.
Yeah. So you still got, 3 years before you really got to make at least a contract decision on him. If you honestly, depending on the again, I don't know what the picks are, but if you're trading with the Jets, maybe they don't even want Bradford Darnold or Darnold Bradford. Maybe they don't even really want Sam.
Well, we
might take him, but we want the picks. We want the picks. If you're trading with Miami, you think, Tua might be the guy who can, be under center for us, and then we can use our picks to do other things.
Sure. Yeah.
I think Miami's more attractive than New York to Houston, depending on what the draft capital is.
Right. I got you. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out. That's for sure. It should be interesting. We got with free agency still continuing, the one thing that was put out as far as the Giants go, they're probably looking at waiting on the second round of free agents to get a deal. So obviously they're letting the higher echelon players off the board first, so that they can again shop the bargain basement, so to speak, as Steve Smith said. But hey, you know what? Here's the thing: they don't have that much draft capital, not draft capital. They don't have that much cap room,
right?
To begin with, and they're not one of these teams that obviously is going to go restructure everything so they can gain some cap room. But it is what it is. It's annoying to hear, and it seems as if that's the case, and it really does seem that way. But you know what? None of us can sit here and say that we know what they're trying to do, or we could do a better job at it. Who the hell knows, But you would expect them, that's their job. You would expect them to know how to do their job a little bit better.
Right. You would think they should be the guys that know.
Right, exactly. So we'll see
what happens.
You know
what? Look, I'm not as down on Daniel Jones as
I'm not down
as Harry is,
I'm not down on Daniel Jones. I think that everybody's saying, he reminds me of this, he reminds me of that. One I read somebody posted in one of the groups last week. He reminds me of Dave Brown. No, he doesn't. He reminds me of a mobile young Eli Manning. That's who he reminds me of. He really does. Well, and Eli Manning won 2 Super Bowls. So,
right, and here's the thing going into next year, right?
Right.
Okay, Dak is back with Dallas. Okay. And you can look at Dak's numbers, and they're great. But their defense is terrible.
Yeah.
They're going to have to really pick it up and make their defense better, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so fine. You would assume, they're maybe a better team than the Giants. But I don't think head and shoulders above the Giants unless they crank up their defense.
Right.
Washington, I think they're a better team, or at least roughly the same team with Fitzpatrick as they were with Alex Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I would say roughly the same, yeah, probably.
Okay, so, and then you got Philly,
who just got rid of their franchise quarterback.
Who just got rid of their franchise quarterback,
and is still taking a cap hit on a salary that is for a player that's not even on the team anymore.
Right, and their starting quarterback, or projected starter, owner endorsed starter, I believe it is. Right.
Yep.
We don't even know if he can throw the ball.
Right.
In the NFL.
Right.
So this idea that the Giants are now in a division there, everyone is better than them, I don't buy that.
I don't buy it either. I don't. I don't think they're going to walk away from next season with a 14-2 record.
But I don't think they have to. But they could win 10 and win the division.
They could win 9 and win the division. Look,
they could win 9 and win the division.
It's not like every team in the NFC East is going to wave a magic wand and have last year's bullshit be different.
Exactly.
The Giants were 1 game away from another team winning the NFC East with a 6-10 record.
Right.
So
they just need to improve by a few games, and they should be right in it. I don't see Dallas winning 12 games.
9-7, 10-6 wins the NFC East next year.
I think 10 wins it. And again, Washington, they've got a scary defense.
Yep.
But Fitzpatrick is a nice quarterback. But just look at his career. He's never been a guy who's really taken anybody anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
So, well, I think romantically we think about him, and would he go to Harvard or wherever?
Fitzpatrick went to Harvard.
Yeah. So we have this image of him and all that, and we like him because it seems like he's a good guy and a journeyman, and
sure.
But he's not that great a quarterback.
No.
He's okay. He's better than some, not a whole lot.
Right.
And worse than a number of others. So I think the Giants, again, they're going to have to make good moves, and that's where if I was a Giant fan, that's where I'd be worried. Not that everybody else in the division is going to be so much better than you or is going to improve so much,
sure.
But that you are not going to improve because of who's calling the shots.
I got you.
I hope they kind of do well because it'd be nice. But if they don't do well, I hope he's I hope Gettleman wants all the credit then.
Right.
If they don't go anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
if they stay kind of where they are now, or win one more game, as I think they've done each of the last 2 seasons, right?
Yeah.
They won one more game than the year before, and one more game. So if they do that again, I hope Gettleman's willing to take the credit for that. But he won't. He'll find some way to pass it off on someone else.
Of course he will. Of course. So, all right.
It's not going. I don't think it's going to be necessarily pretty for either New York team. But I think the Giants are going to be in.
I don't think it's going to be necessarily pretty. I think it's going to be better to some extent.
Yeah,
than it has been the last.
Certainly,
couple of years,
the Giants are going to have a better shot at winning the NFC East than the Jets are going to have at winning the AFC East.
This is true, especially with Belichick dumping all of that money.
Yeah, Belichick is going to be back to at least respectability. Miami's probably going to be better. It's either going to be Tua or perhaps Deshaun Watson under center, and then of course you have Buffalo.
Yeah. Well, right now, it's projected the Bills are the favorites at minus 155, which means, as they always say, you bet $155, you win 100.
Yeah.
So they're minus 155. Are the favorites to win the AFC East? The Dolphins are plus 350. The Pats are plus 375.
Yeah, no one else is even close.
And the Jets are plus 1,500. So
I would think it would be around 1,200, but
yeah, they got them all the way up at 15. So.
Well, I've got an extra 30,000, so I'd like to win $300, please.
There you go.
Yeah, good move.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, exactly. In any event, all right. Well, we'll see how that all plays out, and we'll report back. Obviously, we're talking another 5, maybe 6 weeks, 5.5 weeks before the draft. So plenty of time.
I thought it was even more than that.
Maybe 6 weeks, maybe because it's 4 and then 3. It might be 7.
What day is it? When is the draft?
It's the end of April. It's the end of April. It's last Thursday in April.
We'll call it 6 weeks.
6 weeks-ish.
Basically the middle of March now. So
yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll see how that all plays out. I want to pop back to baseball just for 1 second. We breezed through the Mets really quick because we got to the Yankees for Harry there.
Right.
I just want to. There was a couple things I wanted to touch on. DeGrom's pitching great. Some of the bats. Dom Smith hit a 3-run home run yesterday, and Alonso hit a solo shot in the 5th, and he had 2 hits. He Alonso raised the spring average to 417. So,
yeah, it's a spring, means nothing.
And I know it is. But Lindor had a 2-run shot in the 6th. Mets won 8-3. Lindor went 2 for 3 with 2 runs, a home run, and a walk. He needed those 2 hits to get over the Mendoza line for spring training too. Yeah,
it means nothing.
But in any event, no, he did look good hitting those and everything else. But here's what I was going with that. Lindor again announced. We had there was some rumblings about a week ago or so. We heard that they were going to start to talk contract with Lindor.
Oh yeah.
I haven't heard much of that, but he did say in his presser after that game yesterday that he does not want to negotiate during the season. He said it before, and he's saying it then. And he says that if they do not come to some sort of a contract, and I don't think he was being much of a dick about it, but he's saying if they don't come to an agreement and have a contract in place before opening day, he will go to free agency.
Of course he will. He'd be stupid not to.
He'd be stupid not to, right? Obviously. So, but now, I'll ask you, do you think they should not give him a contract, let him play, see how he handles New York? Because, look, bottom line is, whatever he's going to get on the open market, so to speak, the Mets can pay him. You know what I mean? It's not like it's the Wilpons where, they let him go, forget it, some other team's going to outbid them. Most of the other teams that have close to the amount of money that Cohen has already have a ton of money in other players, i.e., the Dodgers and so forth and so on. But so no matter what he's going to get on the open market, Cohen can match it, or increase it by a little bit, sweeten it a little bit to get him back. So do you think that they should just let him go to free agency, or do you think that they should wrap it up in the next couple of weeks and just get it done?
They'd be idiots not to wrap it up.
I agree.
A player like Lindor, you don't have to worry about whether he's going to be good or how he's going to handle New York. He's going to be fine.
It's not like he's 33, and he's looking
No,
for a
the
6-year.
the guy's he's a freaking superstar.
Yeah,
he's the best at his position in the game right now.
Get the deal done.
Get it done.
Shut up again. Look, here's the thing. If you're thinking you're going to let him go to free agency and then you're going to sweeten the deal, sign him now. What the hell's the difference? What are you waiting for? Just do it.
Not only that, the difference could be you might piss him off.
Right.
He might feel unappreciated if you let him go to free agency.
Exactly.
And look, everybody has a number, and you're right. Certainly, Uncle Steve can afford to pay him, but maybe somebody's going to give him more money than Steve is willing to.
This is true.
Somebody or it might come down to years. Right. How old is Lindor now? 28? 27?
20, something like that.
So what if somebody gives him a 10-year contract?
Right.
It says, we'll keep you till you're 38 and we'll pay you, $35 million a year, right?
Right.
Well, maybe Cohen's not willing to do that. Sign him now and lock him up. Because look, if you don't, the other thing is, if you don't and you lose him, then this wonderful offseason that we've had here comes down to McCann.
It comes down to McCann.
It comes down to McCann,
right,
which is a great signing, assuming he pans out, and we'll assume that he will. But that's it.
Yep.
That's all you get out of your first offseason when you had high hopes. No Bauer, no Springer.
Right.
You had the best shortstop, but you didn't take care of him before the season, and he's gone.
Right. I agree. They should wrap it up, sign him now. And for that matter, you know what? Just wrap up Conforto too. See, none of these conflicts
Just do it.
here. Just do it. Get it done. Get it done. Get it done.
Because otherwise you're back to where you were last year with a better catcher.
Right.
Right? More or less.
Exactly.
And you don't have, you lost your young, you lost Rosario, and what was the other guy's name? Jimenez, right? It was your young defensive wizard prospect.
Right.
Two good defensive shortstops, and they're gone. So now Lindor is gone, and you have to fill that hole again. I mean, he's your bat, right?
He's the bat.
I mean, you got him, Alonso, Davis, and
McNeil.
McCann's not a McNeil. McCann's not a big home run hit. Well, I mean, as far as your big hitters, right? Your boppers.
Right.
It's Lindor, Alonso,
where you go?
Davis.
Sorry. Right.
Those are kind of your big three, right?
Right.
As far as I think, I don't know who I don't know everybody's home run numbers.
Bottom line is, home run numbers, but everybody can hit right around the infield. I mean,
right. No, you get hit, but those guys, those are your power hitters.
Your power hitters are Alonso, Lindor, Conforto.
Yeah, I guess to a certain extent, Conforto too.
Absolutely.
So I mean, you don't want to throw that great defense and that power away. He's a rarity, right? Shortstops don't hit that many home runs. There's not too many of them.
No, you got to lock him up. You got to lock him up, and you got to do it now. So
right.
Well,
right now, if you're the Mets, you have some leverage over what you're going to pay him.
Right.
In that you only have to negotiate with him or his agent in this case. If he goes to free agency, well, now you've got to negotiate against who knows how many other teams.
Right.
So you don't want that. You want it to just be you and your guy and his guy.
Just get
it worked out. Get it done.
Well, we'll see how it all plays out. We got obviously 2 weeks from tomorrow is opening day, and if they're going to get it done, they're going to get it done by 2 weeks from today, right? So let's see. I would imagine it's going to be before that. And
I would think so.
And a special, just a side note before we wrap up baseball there, on the Mets-Astros game on Tuesday, Reggie Jackson and Craig Biggio were seen sitting next to each other in the stands watching the game. So it was a little interesting.
How nice would it be to be either one of those guys?
Right.
Hanging out of the spring training game.
Beautiful.
Right?
I love it. Right?
If you're Biggio and you're hanging out with Reggie freaking Jackson,
right.
Or if you're Jackson and you're hanging out with Craig freaking Biggio.
Right. Gotta love
Just
it.
Watching baseball.
Just sitting there and watching baseball. Talking shop. There you go. All right. Nothing really, groundbreaking in the NHL. We're talking about hockey. Some teams played some games. No, I'm kidding. The only thing I wanted to bring up was Artemi Panarin. He's back from his leave, if you will, and he was quoted he was interviewed. He was asked directly, how did it go? What was it all about? Tell us about it, so forth and so on. His quote was, Artemi Panarin quoted, "This is probably not the time to discuss it right now. I have nothing to hide. I will address everything after the season, but right now the focus is on the game and not these discussions." So, in other words, nothing. He wasn't going to say anything. He'll talk about it after the season. That's what he said. So, well, if anybody is interested in that, we'll find out soon.
Well, more interested in what wasn't his family being threatened? Perhaps
it was family being threatened by
Russia.
Russia, yeah, by Russia, yeah, pretty much
by Putin.
Well, yeah, he was. Well, it was he was worried for. I think he was worried for his family because Russia was. They were. There was a story made up that he
assaulted a girl,
a younger girl, when he was over there, so forth and so on. And she nor no one ever came forward. Somebody, just told the story that would have never known it either. So obviously there was whatever. Right. But so we'll see what happens.
It seems like it's pretty obviously fabricated.
Right. So, but we will see. And on another side note, the Islanders, Anders Lee is actually he got hurt in the Devils game last Thursday. He's out for 24 days minimum. So he was leading the team with 12 goals in 27 games. So or 27 goals in 12 games.
Yeah, well, good luck,
probably
Devils.
12 games. There you go. But in any event, there you go. That's that. And then NCAA. Last weekend was Selection Sunday, and then of course Selection Monday for the women. Before we say anything about that, Georgetown, Big East champs. Congratulations to this guy right here. By the way, Mr. Dolan and security guards again. This is Patrick Ewing. Pat Ewing.
I know he looks a little bit different now, but still,
he used to look like this. Now he looks like this. Yeah. All right, so.
It's not that far of a stretch.
Not too much of a stretch. He still looks similar, and if you ask him his name, he'll tell you it's Patrick Ewing.
Yeah, you should know that name if you work at the Garden.
You should know the name. Right. Anyway,
I'll tell you what's going to be interesting. I think we got 4 playoff play-in games going on, right?
Yes.
Let's see. Oh, you got Mount St. Mary's against Texas Southern. You got Norfolk State against Appalachia State. You got Wichita State against Drake. And this is an interesting one. You got Michigan State against UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I heard today they have 17 championships between them, those two teams.
17.
And they are playing a play-in game.
And they're playing a play-in game.
So, how things change.
Slightly.
But, actually I saw the end of, I think it was the Big Ten championship. I haven't really looked at any brackets or who's in or anything, but to me, this story is Gonzaga.
Well, yeah, right. I'm going to say it right now. I mean, I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb right now to say it, but I think Gonzaga has got this year. We'll talk more about it with Harry next week, but I think it's Gonzaga's year.
It certainly would be cool to see it. I'd love to see a team go undefeated and win the tourney.
No team has done it yet, right?
Well, no, there's only been 6 other teams or 7 other teams that have done it. No one's done it since Indiana in 75.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
75. I think there's 4 or 5 teams who've gone undefeated, but they didn't win the tournament.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was UNLV did it one year, and I don't know, Kansas or whoever. I forget who they are. I heard the list like last week.
Right.
But Gonzaga is got. I mean, and these are again. That's 75 Indiana team. There's I think 4 UCLA teams on that list.
Right.
In the Wooden days. So we're talking about and then. I forget, maybe North Carolina, but like way, way back in the day.
Sure.
So, interesting that, even the discussion is, even if they do it, is this Gonzaga team as legendary as some of those other teams who've done it?
Right.
And they're like, well, I mean, these are guys like Wilt and, maybe Walton or whoever else was on those great teams.
Sure.
But I think you can only judge that after you see who comes out of it from Gonzaga, who goes to the NBA, and what kind of career they have, right?
Yeah,
I mean, those are legendary teams because those guys became legendary NBA players.
Sure, absolutely.
So it's really not fair although they were legendary college players as well.
Sure.
But still, it would be, wouldn't be the first time, or the second, or the third, or fourth, or fifth, or sixth, or I think seventh would be the eighth time, I guess. But it's still history.
Right.
And I like when stuff like that happens. I like when stuff that's maybe, even if it's happened before, it hasn't happened in obviously a long time.
Right.
Or has happened very sparingly. I like to be alive and get to, witness that. To me, that's very cool.
It would be cool. I'd like to see that too. On a note too, Iona won the MAC championship.
Yeah,
and Patino's going to tournament
again.
Again,
and he's probably as much a reason why as any player on that team.
Right, but you know what? They were shut down most of the season. They only played like a handful of games. But in the tourney in the MAC tournament they won, so they got their bid.
Yep, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, and apparently I was watching a report, an interview with they were interviewing Patino the other day, and he says he's got a suit packing strategy. So he said there he's only bringing a certain amount of suits with him, but he'll have to buy one in Indianapolis if need be, if they get that far. So. But in any event, and then Selection Monday for the women, the UConn women, obviously they're the top seed, number one seed. But did you see Gino Auriemma tested positive for COVID? So he's got to quarantine for 10 days. So he will miss, assuming they, go deep into the tournament, he will miss the first two rounds. So.
If there's anyone that can survive without their head coach, it's probably that team.
UConn, right? Exactly. I would have to say
they might win it all, even if he's not. If he has, let's knock wood that he survives. But he might, if he ends up with COVID, and it gets enough to keep him out of the tournament.
Right.
I don't want him to end up on a ventilator or anything. But
he's right now. He's
tested positive.
He's tested positive. He's asymptomatic. So
if he gets sick enough to miss the whole tournament, they could maybe win it without him.
Right, but I don't think
as great as he is.
I saw an interview with him. He was actually shocked that he, because he hasn't been anywhere. He wasn't with anybody else, and nobody else tested positive, whatever. So, but whatever. I hope they do well. Was she a freshman or whatever? That one, she came from, was it Wisconsin or what the hell's her name? Beckers. She's just amazing.
Oh yeah,
they all are, but she's crazy good. But in any event,
that is the new standard for quality.
Yeah, there you go. So, well, there you go. That should wrap it up. I don't have anything else. Do you?
I will have to save it for when Harry's back. But next week, think about this over the course of this week.
Go for it.
Is the 3-point shot a problem in the NBA?
I can answer it right now, but we'll wait till next week.
I've heard some discussion about that and some possible ways to change the 3-point or change some things about the game to change the impact of it.
Teaser
for those who think it is a problem and needs some fixing.
Sure.
So I will reveal some of those possibilities next week.
Reveal some of those next week. We'll talk more about that. Next week's going to be our last until the finals anyway, or deep into the playoffs. Our last lead off with basketball podcast because obviously baseball starts.
Baseball.
And the day after, 2 weeks from tonight, will be our first baseball preview. Obviously, the next day being opening day. But next Friday too, we'll be having two special podcasts. That's going to be the 26th. There'll be a a podcast, a Mets Corner podcast and a Yankees Corner podcast. So stay tuned for them. But next week first, we'll do more NBA, and Pete will enlighten us on his ideas for the 3-point shot fixing. So what do you think about that? That's all I have to say. So anyway, well, we'll wrap up the show for today. At this point, we want to thank everyone for watching, and for those of you just listening to the audio podcast, thanks for listening. Don't forget to visit our website, www.loggerroom.com. That's LAGERROOM.com. And please remember, like us and follow us on all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel. All of them are at The Logger Room. Remember, we go live with the video podcast on both Facebook and YouTube every Wednesday night at 7:30. And for those of you that just want to listen to the audio podcast, you can do so on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, and Stitcher. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to one or more of those feeds, and you will never miss a show. Again, thanks for following along with us. Have a great rest of the week. Have a wonderful weekend. Check out all the sports. Enjoy. Once again, happy birthday to Mr. Harry Lug Nutz. And we will talk to you soon, guys. Take care. Cheers.
Peace.
Look at the little Tula. She's talking to the producer. And a man in a jumpsuit throws her a grapefruit. By George.